Sometimes I'm gaining, then again I'm losing. Sometimes I'm rising, then again I'm falling. Sometimes I'm gaining, then again I'm losing.
What's up, people? How y'all doing? Good. 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 What was I gonna say? So I was supposed to do a stream. This was planned first, so I apologize. People were maybe excited for me to do look at that Catholic guy. I'm gonna do that tomorrow. So my bad. Yes, today doing a collab with David Patrick Harry on astrotheology and how insane it is. I expect Marty Leeds to show up. Who knows? Maybe he'll call in. Who knows? He might even call right in. You know what I'm saying? You have no idea.
Sometimes I'm getting
Am I always this zoomed out? No, I'm going to be up on the screen. Up on the screen. So I didn't want to double. I had to make myself smaller. Tomorrow I have a debate against axiomatic reasoning on evolution. Your favorite. Hopefully it's fast free day tomorrow. You never know. No, today's fast free. Too much shoulder for one stream. Bonnie. Bub. You stole the audience. DPH is saying I stole the audience. Wait, how many people do I have in here? Okay. A bunch of you have to go over to DPH right now. A bunch of you go over to DPH and make him feel better, okay? Go on. Get over there. He said he's not going to start the stream in he says he's not going to start the stream in 19 seconds if some of you don't go over there. Okay? Okay, at least 10 of yeah, exactly. At least 10 of you. Sympathy shifting, more like sympathy grifting. Am I right? Am I right? Hello?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dr. David Patrick Harry with Church of the Eternal Logos, and I am joined by everyone's favorite comedian, debate extraordinaire, one of the funnier people I know, a friend of mine, and I'm glad to see he dressed up for our conversation today. He actually has sleeves on.
Yeah, I know. It's a mistake, actually, because I just went to the gym, so now would be the time to show the progress. But as I told you off screen, I'm only working in my buttocks now.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to get back on the whatever podcast, and that's what's going to do it.
Hey, whatever gets you that apple bottom. I'm sure the super chatters are going to send in more money for that. And
probably. Yeah, probably. Well, I mean, you're all buff, but you wear suits and stuff. I mean,
well, unlike you, I like to think of myself as a professional. So.
Dude, show your arms, tear one of the books you're not reading. What are you doing?
You're
Oh,
right.
because it's a doctor. It's because you have the word doctor now. That's probably
It's
why.
a total mismatch with the brand. I'm missing it.
Yeah.
Oh man, how you and the family doing, dude?
Doing great. Doing
I owe
excellent.
you a bottle of Angel's Envy, by the way.
Oh, I'm almost done with it. I have about this much left. I'm going to be buying another bottle soon. So,
Yeah, last time I was with Jim Bob, we finished the bottle that he did have, and so as a good friend and someone who respects men's customs, I need
Yeah.
to replace that fifth with
Yeah.
another fifth of Angel Envy, which was actually delicious. It was my first time having it.
I really like it a lot. So, thank you. So, yeah, you guys want to super chat over on his channel, just know there's a chunk of it that's going to just go right back to me in liquid form. So, that's good.
Yeah, exactly. So anybody, don't super chat Jim Bob today. Send it over here since I'm only going to be repaying him with a bottle of whiskey. So
Can you turn up your gain? My audience says you're low.
turn up my gain.
That's
Dude,
already
I've been
better.
having these problems with the Shure microphone. It just switched. I have on StreamYard, I have the audio turned up all the way,
Uh-huh.
and in my Motive Mix, where I can adjust the gain and stuff in my microphone. Let me mess
Interesting.
around with it real quick, see if I can get it.
Because it's showing up on it. It's about just almost hitting the yellow.
Almost.
So,
Okay.
almost
What
hitting the
about
yellow.
now? What about now? Check, check, check.
That's more in the yellow, yeah.
Okay. All right. That is my microphone turned up all the way in my mixer app.
Let me see. Okay.
Check, check, check. Check,
Let me-
check, check.
Let me try to turn it up on my end and see what happens here. You might have to just talk
It
really
keeps doing
loud.
that for some reason. Everybody's like,
Recently?
yes, it just happened like last week. I got a new microphone, new setup. I now don't have to use my boom speaker when I play videos.
Okay.
Everything's working, and then I log in one day and everybody's like, dude, your microphone's super low.
Let me see if I can turn it up here.
So I have it on my end turned up as far as I can. I don't know if it's a StreamYard setting.
Let me see. I'm just going to try to jack it up. Keep talking.
I am talking.
Yeah, that's
Is that
good.
better?
Yeah.
Okay.
You might have
Well,
to get a. You might actually have to get an arm that gets the mic closer to you, like mine is.
Close to speak in the microphone?
Yeah, that's perfect. That's way better.
All
We have a
right.
tabletop?
That's the case. Yeah, everybody's like, oh, dude, your microphone's pointed up. You got to point it towards your mouth. I'm like, dude, I'm about to eat the damn thing. I think
That's
it
right.
should pick up.
Yeah. All right, that's a little better. I kind of put it up, and so
All
a
right.
little directionality. You're used to that, so let's go. Let's go. So look, we've been looking at astrotheology, sort of mixed in with like Gnosticism. Let's face it, I've been following Marty Leeds as fodder for a long time, and he's a good representation of maybe mixing astrotheology with gematria and all this. Today, we're going to mostly maybe focus on astrotheology.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the goal that I wanted to do is kind of just walk through some of these prominent claims. Did you ever get into astrotheology?
No, like you mean like in my new age time? Not
Yeah.
only like indirectly, like just kind of like, just saying platitudes, not actually studying it or, pretending to know it exactly. No.
Okay.
You did, right?
I will admit that I fell victim to a lot of this stuff. So as we go through today, and kind of adjacent to what I asked you is the sovereign citizen, free man on the land, straw man, all capitalized name on your
Sure.
government IDs, birth certificate, all that stuff. So I remember probably 2012, I was deeply embedded into this stuff and watched every video of Jordan Maxwell. I even bought his package that came with all these DVDs explaining everything.
Right.
And I remember going to a religious studies professor. He was my advisor. And we're having a private meeting, and then I start breaking out all this like, oh, yeah, and this and that. And he's like, where are you getting this?
Mm-hmm.
And I was, oh, well, there's a scholar online. And then I started explaining, he's like, no. And he just starts to explain like the
Yeah.
academic response to this stuff. God is actually, the word good, you take an O out and you get God. And he's like, that's only in English, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, oh, okay. And so I had to first embarrass myself in front of academics to realize, hey, maybe there's something off here, and maybe it's not as convincing as people claim it is.
Yeah, it's like when dudes get into astrotheology, it's like kind of like feminism. They only use it to get chicks, right?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. So there's so many claims, and we're going to be watching at some point. I have a 10-minute video of Jordan Maxwell debunking Christianity and letting us know that it's all solar worship and that no one in the Bible ever existed, which isn't even contemporary scholarship. So,
right.
And here's the thing, though, I want to say, before criticizing astrotheology, and I always do this with the mushroom Jesus theory, is there are some true things about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So mushroom Jesus people claim, oh, there's these frescoes that have mushrooms. And yes, there are, and it's a novelty within Christianity. It doesn't mean that's the original Eucharist, but they do exist. And a lot of Christians, like dealing with the psychedelic stuff, they just totally dismiss it, and they never look at, which then allows these people to propel it even further and make it seem more convincing. Because, oh my God, this guy didn't even know who John Marco Allegro was. And the same thing's true with astrotheology, is that did the ancients mythologize the stars or construct spiritual worldviews regarding the stars or perceive them as deities? Of course they did.
Mm-hmm.
Of course. So we're not debunking the idea that astrology influenced the development of world religion. Of course it did. Did ancients worship stars? Of course they did. We're debunking the exaggerated claims that astrotheology is a hermeneutic that can explain everything regarding religion. And their starting point is that because religion is just based off mythologizing the stars, all religions are man-made creations, and they're sort of very Gnostic in that sense. It's a sort of man-made entrapment. It's a preventing you from the true gnosis of understanding how these things connect, or these occult magical rituals. And so the problem is astrotheology is a hermeneutical lens that attempts to explain everything.
Right. And we want to make a distinction between astrotheology and astrology, because sometimes they get overlapped. Even if they do overlap in some way, people might misinterpret the two. And the distinction would be, I guess, in simple form, astrology is referring to the positions, movements, activity of the celestial bodies and their effect on us, or causal effect or deterministic effect on us as people and events, right?
And that's where even Paul in his epistles, he goes to say that, are there, is astrology in the sense, I don't even want to use astrology, but are the stars useful? Is the symbolism of the sun useful for Christ? Paul agrees to all this. So when they try to get us on, oh, well, Jesus is the light of the world and therefore he's a solar deity, well, we don't deny that Christ, symbolically expressed, corresponds with the sun. The difference is they then will say that Jesus was an historical person, which isn't even academic. But then they'll go, because the majority of scholars, this is atheists, you would be a fringe minority at this point to say that Jesus didn't exist. In fact, there was a woman recently, in the last 20 years, wrote an article claiming the historicity of Jesus, whether you believe he was God incarnate or not, just the historicity of the man is a historical fact. And this has been essentially the religious studies for the last 20, 30 years, is that it's really, it's not a debated topic anymore.
Right.
And so we don't, and so getting back to Paul, he says, yeah, the moon as a sort of reflection of grace, meaning the light of the sun illuminating us, theosis. He says, all this stuff is true or useful in a way, but the idea that stars or astrology can predetermine your fate, or that you should orient your life around these, or believe that these things are actual animated deities, this is heresy, this is wrong, this is sinful. So there's a delineation there.
And maybe to make another example of it is, we might see indications of the Trinity in not exactly a one-to-one in the world, but we would never say that is the Trinity, that's equal to the Trinity. So three states of water, things like this that we turn to. It seems like the astrotheology is trying to make the objects and their behaviors divine themselves to some extent, or to full extent.
Yeah, and it depends on who they are. So you have people that are like astrotheologian atheists that believe that all religion is man-made. Then you have people like Jordan Maxwell and I would imagine Marty, where they believe in a sort of spirituality, a spiritualism. There is a God, but they're certainly not the God of these man-made religions. And then they'll take symbolism. I have a handful of points about the problems of how their methodology works, but they equate analogy with origin. So if there is a similarity between, let's say, Apollo and Christ, therefore Christ comes from Apollo worship. But that's not how academic scholarship is done. It's replete with logical fallacies, genetic fallacy, part whole fallacy,
GTSY
all these different things. So
God bless
the idea that
Jordan
they can make such a leap is the problem in the first place. And they don't want to, again, part of the appeal of astrotheology is that it does have truthful aspects, but they want it to explain the entirety of the phenomenon of religion. And it provides this sort of Gnostic, esoteric dimension to it that you then, just like psychedelics, you are privileged. Oh my God, did you know that Lucifer is related to Venus? Did you know that in Revelation 22, it mentions that Christ is the morning star and therefore Christ is Lucifer and therefore it's like, no. That's a reference to the idea that Christ is the first light, the true light, because of the planet Venus. We can take that stuff, but they divorce it from a historical context, and they assume that a symbol in one context and a symbol in another context mean the same thing.
Right, just like numbers, right? That's why they're vulnerable to numerology and gematria, because they look at a number and they make the conflation you just said, but they also experience a number as if it's an event as opposed to a symbol. Yes. And the number isn't itself an event in time. It's a symbol of something, and they go, look, I saw that, and I saw it yesterday too. The other thing that seems to be the biggest problem, ultimately undercutting all of it, is it doesn't have personhood. There's no personhood. And because there's no personhood to the stars and to the celestial bodies, you can't actually argue that there's a revelatory system of epistemology. And so I keep going back to like a revelatory system, like a theonomous versus autonomous. Would you say that this is a good example of autonomous because it's just nominal people going, hey, I started a cult, a yurt cult, right? And now I understand the stars. Like, I'm going to write about it. Yeah, based on what? Like, based on you, based on only you, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that was my big one, is that epistemologically, they can't get out of the problem of authority of interpretation. And that's why even amongst astrotheologians, they will disagree on what a symbol means because they've interpreted it differently. There is no universal rubric. There is no New Testament of astrotheology to explain. There is no tradition. And this is what leads them into essentially a subjectivistic, relativistic point. And it's difficult for them to realize that because, again, they may say things that are true or have some type of historical factuality to them. But it's the entire system they're trying to put forth that they can't justify. And as we go through today, I've already analyzed the 10-minute video of Jordan Maxwell. There are so many things that just cannot be historically proven or backed, or what I call their pseudo-etymology. Is a lot of this stuff, one of the problems is they equate everything into English, and somehow by understanding English words, you can understand their ancient origins. One example being Israel. Israel is Isis Ra-El, and it's the fact that Jews worship the combination of Egyptian deities and Elohim, Yahweh, in the Old Testament, and therefore Israel is the group of people that are worshiping the solar god Ra, Isis, the goddess, and Elohim. The problem is, all you have to do is look up what Israel is spelled in Hebrew, and what was it spelled like in Greek. And it's not Israel. That doesn't exist until English. So you're trying to tell me that the history of this particular group of people, that their true theological identity isn't revealed until we get to modern English.
Yeah, this is the same for counting, because this does extend for some people to gematria and stuff. And the ciphers require arbitrarily choosing a language so that the words add up to a certain number. But then you go to other languages and you're like, well, why didn't you use this other language? Well, because the numbers would add up differently if you use that other word, right?
Exactly.
So they get all selective about that. And you ask them why they chose that. And obviously the answer is because it works, you know. We don't choose the other spelling because it doesn't work. We don't choose the other ciphers because it just doesn't work. We choose the one that works. It's like completely circular.
And that's where I argue they don't have a criteria of falsification because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So because like anytime the number 12 shows up, it means the zodiac.
Right.
Well, for Christians, why does Christ have 12 apostles? You ask an astrotheologian, they say, oh, it's because they are equative to the zodiac.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, no, that's never actually been associated in history. It has to do with the 12 tribes of Israel. Well, okay. Well, the 12 tribes of Israel have to do with the Jews worshiping Leo in the zodiac. It's like, well, no. If you look into, and there's all this scholarship on the Lion of Judah. Why did Jews choose the lion as their symbol? Well, it has to do with royalty, strength, and power.
Mm-hmm.
They actually weren't appealing to a solar symbolism. And this is, again, you don't have to agree with me. This is just what scholars have addressed and articulated. And so the 12 apostles coming towards Christ is the reunion and the fulfillment of the 12 tribes of Israel. That has nothing to do with solar symbolism.
Right. Now, you might say, like you said earlier, it's kind of interesting that a lot of these things that might not be fully related to Christianity happen to coincide in some way with Christianity. Would we take the position that that's not an accident? Like there's something to that, but it's not what you think it is. We would maybe move toward, in orthodoxy, like a logos spermaticos position on that, right? Why don't you tell the audience, some new people for me might not know what that is.
Yeah, so logos spermaticos is a concept developed by St. Justin Martyr. So this is 1st, 2nd century Christianity, very, very early, before the councils. And he argued that because we have a single epistemology, what we would call logos theology, basically the theology of the Orthodox Church as first explicated in the first millennia, truth can be found in a multitude of places. But discovering truth depends on what rubric are you assessing something to be true on. And Justin Martyr, a philosopher, is already hitting on this. He says, hey, but we as Christians can actually look at pagan cultures or foreign societies and find aspects of truth that correlate to our epistemology because our epistemology is revealed and it's the one true epistemology. And therefore, you can find aspects. So Justin Martyr argued that Socrates, by denouncing the pagan gods of ancient Greece, was led by reason and logic, which before revelation was one of the closer ways in which you can move towards Christ. And so he argued Plato and Aristotle and Socrates, though we would consider them still pagans, they were moving in a trajectory away from the tradition they were born in through the utilization of reason and logic, which logic, the root word of logic is logos. So from that concept to your point about astrotheology is we don't deny that the cosmos is symbolic. But what is the cosmos symbolizing? We would say, again, it's the incarnation of God. It's Christ himself. It's the logos that is the metaphysics of the universe itself. So when they want to say, oh, December 25th, the sun rests for 3 days, and then it rises on the 4th day, or December 25th after the solar winter solstice, this is because Christians worship the sun on Sun's day. Well, one, we can say that the solar phenomenon is emblematic of Christ, but I was looking into the historicity of December 25th or the winter solstice, and all the way to Hippolytus of Rome. Already what they were speculating the first 300 years, what was the date of Christ, not based on astrology, but based on their calendars and traditions passed down from the apostles. And they associated it had to be around here, and this puts Easter and Pascha around here, which Pascha is obviously the fulfillment of Passover. And they'll say, oh, no, Easter is just it's the spring equinox. You guys are, life is conquering death. And we would say as Christians, yeah, that shows us that the cosmos itself is validating the actual historical phenomenon of Christ, because truth, if it doesn't happen on every single level, the symbolic, the archetypal, the cosmological, well, then there's like spaces where it doesn't fulfill all of reality. We believe logos, Christ, logos theology, fulfills every aspect, every dimension and crevice of truth, because truth is a who, not a what. So
Right.
therefore, we don't actually dismiss some of the solar symbolism, because we would say, yeah, exactly. It's indicative of Christ. It's the light of the world. It gives life. It is your, it's your risen Savior in a way. But that's not to diminish or reject the historicity of actual events.
Okay, so if they take the view that truth is a what, and they take a symbol, and our view is these symbols only make sense if you have a referent for what's the symbol of, right? So we would go into our essentially incarnation theology, revelatory theology, and their view is that it's a symbol, but if we ask them what's the symbol of, they would actually have to say it's a symbol of another symbol, right?
Right.
And then they have to keep going, and then they're kind of forced into saying, well, the accumulation of all things we're looking at that we're saying one is a symbol of the other is all, wouldn't it just, does it fall into just like a monistic universe God? Like if everything's God at that point, because you could make a symbol, you could probably stretch that and make a symbol of something if you look hard enough. One thing is like the other in this way. Look at that. It seems like if you don't get to the who-ness of God, you lose the revelatory aspect of it, but you also lose the meaningfulness of symbols themselves, because like another question is like, ought we approach accurate symbolism? Ought we like pursue an accurate description of symbols? Well, without a who, without Christ, you can't even make that argument. Like, what's the moral obligation of pursuing and maintaining astrotheology as a base for anything? And that falls apart there as well.
Yeah, and they don't, again, and that's where every astrotheologian has their own God. You ask them, maybe it's more Gnostic, maybe it's more monistic, maybe it's panpsychic, who knows? But again, to your point, they have no revelation, they have no tradition. So again, it appeals back to their own sentimentalities and their own preferences. So, okay, who created the universe? Is the universe still reflecting God? Oh no, religion is man-made phenomenon constructing based on the stars. Okay, does that make all religion false? Yes. Okay, but you believe in God. Yes. Well, how do you know that God's real? Well, I don't know. I felt it in my heart one day.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, so it's subjectivist again. So they have no ground to stand on making universal claims. And yeah, so and this was addressed, I told you backstage, there's a famous scholar in the 1960s. He was a biblical scholar. He's actually Jewish. His name was Samuel Sandmel, and he developed this theory called parallelomania. And he saw, because in scholarship, religious studies, for example, which is the comparative study of religion. That's what my PhD is in. So most people are often not part of a religious tradition. They're comparing and contrasting religion as a academic enterprise.
Okay.
And in the 19th century, so the late 1800s, it was very common for people to associate Mithra and Christ. And we're coming out, again, this is very much Enlightenment, moving into modernity. And so there was a push amongst academics and religious studies scholars to sort of diminish the uniqueness of religions and find these similarities across all these different ancient traditions. And it wasn't really until the mid-20th century where scholarship started to make a turn, because we find the Dead Sea Scrolls in the 40s and 50s, we get the Nag Hammadi text in the 60s, and there's all this information. We begin to see, actually these paradigms are totally different. The symbols that they mean are totally different in their context, even though if you just put them next to each other, maybe you think they're similar or analogous. And so he talked about this parallelomania. He's describing many of these academics that are focusing too much on similarities, but when you then focus on differences, you find that, there's all this stuff that would show that they're not similar, and they're very distinct theological paradigms or articulations of God. And so there was a move, and that's where you see in the 80s and 90s much more critical scholarship regarding what we would consider astrotheology, and it had to do with many Masons in the end of the 19th century, early 20th century,
Hmm.
had these ideas again in theosophy, perennialism. Like this was in vogue. We don't
Yeah.
realize the intellectual history that the top thinkers thought this way. So this is what the majority of people began to believe who were interested in diminishing the importance or uniqueness of Christianity.
And so, why do you think, out of the religions, astrotheology is attempted to be mapped on Christianity the most? Like, why is it that it seems to be the case that that's the direction people go as opposed to anything else?
I think one, because it's really a Western phenomenon. I mean, I don't know how many, Indian astrotheologians there are or Chinese astrotheologians making these same claims.
Sure.
So I think one, it's because of the cultures that these astrotheologians reside in, and it's the easiest way to sort of undermine the dominant meta narrative. So it's easy and it's useful in the cultures that they reside in,
Hmm.
and yeah, so most of their claims have to do with Judaism and Christianity. They'll dive into Islam and stuff like that, talking about how they worship the planet Venus. This is why the color green. This is why the crescent moon on some of their flags and stuff like that. But I think Christ in particular is because the claims are so extraordinary. It's the only religion that claims God ever entered history.
Right.
They have all these avatars in Hinduism, but they're avatars. They're an emanation. They're not fully human. They're only Christianity claims that God entered historic time, which again, if you're interested in this idea that truth has to hit every level, well, only Christianity can make an astrotheological argument that has historical backing of Christ's incarnation. But astrotheology as a paradigm is an exaggerated expansion of things that have no direct connection, right? They'll say devil is just evil with a D in front of it. Okay, well, what was devil in Greek? It was diabolos. What does that have to do with evil with a D in front? That's where we get the word from.
Yeah.
Or God equals good, and good is just one O equals God. It's like, well, actually, I looked at the etymology. Our word for God, even in the Old English, is like, it's spelled totally different and it sounds totally different. And the word good comes from a different word in Old English that means something totally different. So only in modern English can you make that argument. And this is the problem with, I think, when people have, a little bit of knowledge is dangerous, where if you're totally ignorant, you're kind of safe from making total massive speculation because you really don't know. But if you have a little bit of knowledge, then you make these grand ideas and you start connecting these dots in your mind and forming these patterns. And it gets really dangerous. And then you get more educated or more sophisticated about it. You're like, oh gosh, there's all these differences. Things aren't that simple. Astrotheology has a simple explanation for everything.
Yeah. And they say it's so certain. There's so much certainty. Well, that's obvious. Look at this other thing. And they basically turn into like sort of a manic person who's just bombarding you with a lot of information. That seems to be the theme of where it heads to, which is like why I think it's a spiritual danger of the truth of knowledge as opposed to what's practice. I always ask these guys, what do you practice? It seems like the practice is more propositions about the thing you believe, and that's pretty much it. Like there's no sacramental life, there's no liturgical reality. And I think when you criticize this stuff from a Christian perspective, Orthodox Christian perspective, what you said before is so important, that that Christ literally takes on form in the world, not just metaphorically, not just spiritually, not just symbolically. And if you only take the symbolic and reject the literal, you actually can't make sense of most things if it's one or the other. And I think as far as I can see, Orthodox theology is the only view that holistically makes sense of the both and. Something happened physically. It's through matter these things occur. Is there symbolic meaning there? Yes. Is there metaphysics? Yes. Is there metaphor? Yes. Is there analogy? All of it's there, as opposed to parsing out and trying to pick, the kind of stuff you like out of the basket and leaving the rest behind.
Right. And I think that critique demands someone to have somewhat of a philosophical approach. because you have to be able to see paradigms and presuppositions. And I think a lot of these guys, I mean, just like George Maxwell, and I don't, again, we're going to be kind of critiquing and mocking in ways his ideas, but a lot of these people just don't have the intellectual tool set to even fully analyze what it is that they're saying, and that the idea that Mithraism, so this is a big one, Mithraism and Christianity are the same thing, that the Mithraic cults were popular, and so these early church fathers had to construct a theology that mimicked Mithraism so that, you know, they would be able to maintain their Roman political power or something. Well, we don't know much about Mithraism. I have books on Mithraism because I used to be very much interested in this stuff. And Mithraism, inebriation is okay. Orgiastic activity. Okay, so that's a paradigmatic difference on sexual morality, on sobriety. They're not the same thing. Oh, well, Mithra is a solar deity. Okay, great. Well, Mithra, you know, he was born on December 25th. Actually, he wasn't. You know, go look on you know, some of the Mithraic cults and their celebration. It wasn't on December 25th. The Sol Invictus, some of those cults were. But even then, even if Christianity, my point is that some of the church fathers legitimately believed, not based on astrology, that this was around the dating of Christ's birth. But even then, to a Christian, it makes sense that it would correspond with the solar solstice because he is the full light of the world. It would make sense that the cosmos itself, just like the star in Bethlehem, it's not that the star existed and therefore Jesus was there. It's that Jesus was there, the God of the universe, the Logos, and the cosmos reflects that. So we as Orthodox Christians see the cosmos in itself as imbued with divine aspects, divine energies. It's not divine, it's created, all this stuff, but it reflects the glory of God. So if you're a Protestant, I think this is why Protestants probably have a much harder time responding to astrotheology, because they don't have a tradition of saints, of church fathers who already was dealing with ancient paganism, many of which believed these things and were doing, you know, conjuration rituals for Venus or whatever it may be. These guys were existing around these people. So, you know, we get sort of lower tier astrotheologians that think they're like modern Gnostics. The church fathers were dealing with people that were still doing human sacrifices.
Right. The OG. Yeah. Don't be a LARPer, you know, at least. Yeah, that's actually interesting. People are, even in my chat, are making the link as far as epistemology and hermeneutics, the lacking that you see in astrotheology. They treat the world and nature and the sky basically how maybe a Protestant would treat the Bible itself, where it's not like sola scriptura. It's just like, well, it's obvious what it says in the sky. Like I'm just reading the sky, bro. Like, you know, and from that point of view, they have the same problem. There's no tradition or normative authority or ultimately a worldview that can fully exhaust, maybe that's the wrong phrase, that could make sense of and make an account for the things that they're saying about nature itself, about the stars. They're just kind of reading reality as it is and trying to use their reasoning and their ability to basically write poetry about symbols. It seems everything kind of reduces to that, which is why you get different cults starting, right? Because they can do it. Like, you have the liberty to start a yurt cult and just make up new stuff and make it your ability to just bring in other stuff arbitrarily and make it seem like it all makes sense. Like, you can do that and people will start believing it.
To your point about the folders, it's like, well, why do people then listen to someone who's an astrotheologian? Well, they have more folders, right? So it's the authority is attained through, again, this pattern recognition that they claim they have. And in part, again, I want to emphasize, I am not trying to totally dismiss that there aren't astrological emphasis or importance to ancient religion, because that's what the astrotheologians will do based on comments or discussions with many Protestant pastors. They're very dismissive. The whole thing's ridiculous. It doesn't exist. It's like, well, no, actually, of course the ancients, you know, mythologize the stars. Of course, Greek paganism may have correspondence to deities and you know, constellations. Yeah, but again, when we start going through here, because I got the video of Jordan Maxwell, we can look at.
Sure.
Um, it's just one thing after another, non sequitur. And so just because something is analogous, this gets back to the parts whole fallacy.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, let's say the number 4, so there's 4 seasons and there's 4 gospels, therefore the 4 gospels are representative of the 4 seasons. Well, nobody says that. No, there's no academic, there's no historian, there's no pagan criticism of Christianity that made that claim. So the problem is the analogy. 4 always equals the seasons. Therefore, wherever I see the number 4, it means the 4 seasons. Or 12 equals zodiac. Wherever I see the number 12, that equals the zodiac. Well, that can be true in certain circumstances. That can also not be true in other circumstances. It depends on the historical context of the symbol. Symbols are not pre-laden with their meaning. This is basic semiotics. That every symbol contains itself within a semiotic narrative of how that should be understood. Well, you can't just take a symbol, divorce it from its context, take this symbol, and then mash it together and say, look, it's saying the same thing.
Right. There's other things too. Like, that's why it's an endless task of trying to assign what's the true referent for the symbol. Like, for instance, with 4, you have 4 seasons, you have 4 elements, you have 4 directions, but then you're like, okay, so which one is it referring to? Do you just get to pick and choose wherever you want? You just have a volume, like a folder of everything related to reality that comes in the number 4. That's what it is. And that's actually what they do. If you watch someone like Marty Leeds once in a while, I don't recommend it. Anywhere there's a 3, he says is a trinity. Anywhere. Like, it's like identical to what we refer to as a trinity. And I'm like, no, like, what are you talking about? That's just, what are we talking about? Like, what are you actually saying?
That's not the Trinity.
Yeah. It's insane. So yeah, that's why it's like, someone asked, why is it dangerous in my chat? I said, well, it's dangerous because there's no epistemic grounding for it. And if there's no epistemic grounding, you're going to lose yourself. Now, even if you don't believe in spirituality, that you're not adopting an orthodox view and saying, you need to go to the hospital, you can be deluded spiritually, your noose can be, fogged over. Even if you reject that, you're likely to lead into your own sort of neurotic views that are delusional, that are not grounded in anything but your own thoughts. That's to us, that's dangerous. That's like close to, you're basically isolating yourself to your mind and your mind alone. And look what it produces. Look at some of these YouTubers.
And to your point, the reason why it's dangerous is that entire phenomenon you just described is a deep dive into self-pride. Because you have the secret knowledge. You can decode the world religions. All these other people are totally ignorant.
Right.
You are living in the light. They're in the darkness of these man-made, phony religions. It leads to someone who worships their own interpretation.
Right.
And that's why it's so hard to give up.
Yeah.
Right. When you go down the astrotheological or even the sovereign citizen, because these are sort of adjacent, it has to do with play. Once you go so far down into that, you feel committed, and maybe you have garnered, because you go into astrotheology, that you've learned about the Egyptian pantheon and the Greek pantheon. You learned a little bit about Hinduism, so you are educating yourself. You're learning more. You have a better understanding of history, but you've constructed an entire paradigm of patterns that are fallacious, but you can't give that up because it gives you a self-esteem. It gives you insight into things people can't see, and it makes you a unique person, a truth seeker.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not limited by the Dagon popes of the Catholic Church, which I looked into as well. Jordan Maxwell is going to claim that nun, N-U-N, means fish in Aramaic, which it does. In Aramaic, it does mean fish. Does that mean that all female nuns are worshipers of fish, and that's why they are in schools, because fish are in school? This is what Jordan Maxwell says. So, okay, Aramaic, nun means fish. We call these women monastics nuns. Nuns exist, fish exist in schools. These nuns exist in monasteries, which are like theological schools. And then the Pope wears the mitre hat of Dagon, the fish-headed god. So the irony is, Nun comes from the Old English nunne, meaning an ecclesiastical woman. And it has nothing to do with the Aramaic word. And yes, the Aramaic word meaning fish is true, but that has no etymological or philological connection to the English word nun. You
Yeah.
see that it just sounds the same.
Yeah, and it's if you don't stop it, if you don't intervene, which let's face it, most of these people who are spewing this stuff, they're never in front of someone like you. They're never really in front of anybody who can in real time go, whoa, what? Hold on. You know, nuns, fish, school. Oh, they hit your hand with a ruler. Ruler of what? Ruler of the universe. Like it's endless. Like if you just let them go, they're basically just crafting in real time, and they're literally creating sort of a pseudo story for their entire worldview in real time just by word associations. And I could see it maybe a certain phase of my life that would have been kind of alluring. Like it would have been like, oh, you can do this, you know, let's run with it.
Yeah, because so much of the astrotheology, when I came across, I'd never heard of it. And I was a religious studies major, and I was taking psychedelics, so I was very interested in a sort of Gnostic bent to truth and reality, and thought I was acquiring all this secret knowledge. And that's when you grow up, and now I have a PhD, and I've gone through like people criticizing your ideas at a very high level, and you're like, oh shit, I can't back that up at all. You're right. So now you're more leery. You're like, okay, well, I need to actually dive a little bit deeper than surface level, make sure what I'm saying has some backing to it. So the whole idea that the mitre hat, something that I used to believe, has to do with a reminiscence of the god Dagon. There's multiple research papers I found coming out of, you know, even the British Museum, who has some of the original mitre hats of the Catholic Church. They look nothing like the mitre hat today that's supposed to be a fish mouth. Well, even the depictions, when you go into the astrotheological worldview and see, okay, what did the Dagon priest look like? Oh, he had all these fish scales. He had this fish head hat. Well, actually, modern scholarship shows that has nothing to do with the cults of Dagon. It actually has to do with these Mesopotamian cults related to a god named Ea, E-A, and they worship fish. And that was one of their priests. So the idea that you even connect it to Dagon is incorrect. Now, could you reorient that and say, okay, oh, well, it has to do with these Mesopotamian. Okay, well, at least you have some historical factuality there. But this idea that the Catholic, and I'm not a defendant of the Catholic Church or what they do, but it's just there's no historical backing for it. And yes, the mitre hat that we see today that may resemble a fish mouth, that is a later inversion that doesn't even come into existence till after the 10th century. So it's really after the Great Schism that you even see popes wearing a hat similar to this. And, you know, of course, the famous one that I put in the thumbnail is the SON equals the SUN. What other language besides modern English does that exist in? Does Helios and Uios in Greek? Well, what about in Hebrew? No, they're totally different words. What about in Latin? Buenos and sol. Oh, totally different words. Have nothing to do with the sun and the sun. And so this is the problem with a lack of sophistication. And this is why if you go into academia, and I'm not promoting academia, but one of the things that it does do is if you're going to do something like on early Christianity, well, then you have to take exams and be fluent in Latin, Greek, and other languages, or they're not going to let you do it. Now, there may be some blue-haired liberal, but my point is they have some type of linguistic facility so that they don't do what these people are doing in English.
Which are phonetic fallacies.
Yes. Yeah, it just sounds similar. It must be the same. Oh, you know, like Jordan Maxwell, you know who Christ is? You know what Christos means? Christos means anointed. Well, yeah, he's the anointed one. Well, Christos means oil because you anoint with oil, and that's why then Crisco oil uses Crisco, and that's why Jesus Christ, actually he's only oil, he's not a real person. It's like, whoa. We believe that Jesus Christ is the anointed one. What does that have to do with him not existing?
Right.
Like they can make two connections. Yes, Christos does mean anointed, and it is related to oil. Yes, because the Jews would anoint with oil. How does that then lead to Crisco and Pam, kitchen spray, meaning that Jesus doesn't exist?
Unbelievable. Yeah. It's like, I don't know, who's the most popular astrotheologian throughout history?
I think Jordan Maxwell.
At this point? Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea he's made. He's dead now. I had no idea because I was really into this stuff, as I said, like 2011, 2012, maybe 2013. It wasn't until I graduated my undergrad and I presented these ideas to my professor, and he's like, "This is schizophrenic, man. Like, I don't know where you're getting this stuff." And I was like, "Oh, no, and this and this and this." He's like, "No, man, that's not like maritime admiralty." I was like, "Well, it's the law of corporations, and I'm a corporate body, and my birth certificate and birth BERTH for the ship and BIRTH for me coming out of my mom's one." He's like, "You know that corporations are governed by corporate law. It's not maritime." And it's, oh shit. It's just like it just takes like a sober-minded person and like, no, that doesn't exist. But as I told you backstage, one of the and this is where some of the stuff they say is true. One of the most interesting things about the maritime admiralty law thing is the linguistic association with water and money. And that is actually true. And that's not just in English. You can find that in French, German, Chinese, that, we say, this one I've looked into, this one is false. They'll say, well, where are banks? Banks direct, banks are on the sides of rivers, river banks, and they direct the flow of the currency. Well, banks, actually, the etymology of bank has to do with a bench, in which it comes from a French word in English, where you do transactions, monetary transaction, they would have a bench for commerce, and then you'd put the money on, people would observe it, the other person put the money or the goods, and then you'd exchange. That's what the bank was, and that's where we get that word. So it has nothing to do with river banks, but the currency, the flow, cash flow, you liquidate assets, rappers are making it rain, you can drown in debt, you can freeze assets, money begins to dry up. Notice that all of our linguistic analogies and metaphors are related to water, because in the man-made world, money is what you have to exist. And in God's created world, water is the most important thing you need to exist. So that is true. But then they can take that, and like I said, all of a sudden you arrive in front of your judge at court, and you're claiming that you're not your all capitalized name and on your ID, and they just throw your ass in jail. They're like, what? And so you can look up, guys, like sovereign citizens, free man on the land court cases. In the last like 10 years, multiple cases, especially in the state of Texas, they've been brought before judges and federal courts where they've dismissed this stuff. The idea that the yellow fringe around the American flag in a courtroom means it's a Jolly Roger. Jolly Roger refers to the pirate flag. Therefore, the idea is that when you go into a courtroom, you're actually inside of a ship and you're under a maritime admiralty law, and that you're on a pirate ship, and that all this legally, well, that a federal court has already ruled in the last 5 years that that doesn't exist. Like, they don't even know where people are getting that, or the idea that your all capitalized name, you can go to court and separate yourself from like contracts and stuff that you've written. No, you can't. There is a fictional person that we all have. That is the person, the corporate person that can sign a contract or a mortgage or something like that due to the actual living, breathing person. But once you've committed or used anything regarding your social security number, like you've already committed and unified those things, you can't defend yourself in court or just say, no, I'm under natural law, I'm not under all these other jurisdictions. Nobody has won those cases, at least not in the last 10 years. And I remember back in the early 20-teens, I thought, oh, this is how I'm going to get out of student loans, because they loaned that money to my all capitalized name, I'm separate. No, that's not how it works.
Yeah. Oh, someone in my chat said, I'm not driving, I'm traveling. Okay, you're traveling to a prison.
Exactly. And so now if you put in like sovereign citizen, you'll find all these videos where, 10, 15 years ago, you'd find these people go into court and it seemed like they won these court cases or they would get out. And you're like, oh man, there's something to this. And now if you go on YouTube, you'll just find tons of videos of people like getting caught up in court. And then they're like, okay, bailman, send this guy to jail. Like, what's this guy doing?
Yeah. So that, like you're saying, like the sovereign citizen stuff is kind of reflective or an extension of the epistemology, the same methodology, basically.
Yes, because it's symbolic or linguistic wordplay association, right? And as I said, the money and water thing is real, but then once you take that and then you start extrapolating to everything that ends in the word ship, means that it has to do with commerce, relationships, a spaceship. It's like, wait, really? And then it's just like astrotheology. They take these analogies and then they construct this whole worldview. And the difference between astrotheology and the sovereign free man on the land stuff is astrotheology won't get you put in jail. but, go appear in front of a judge and represent yourself as a sovereign citizen. That will. So to me, like you said, the methodology, it's a relativistic epistemology. I've never seen anyone with a law degree put forth, the sovereign citizen arguments.
Yeah. You'd think if it worked, they would probably do that for their get a good record, a winning record or something like that.
Right.
Maybe it works. Maybe the times you saw it work for some weird reason, the person just thought they were insane, and that's what actually got them out of the ticket, because they're like, this person's actually insane.
Well, we can watch. I have a famous video that I used to watch back in the day. So this is George Maxwell, but this guy right here, Ernie Wayne, Turtlegate. Anyways, it's in Montana, and this is actually posted by the Bozeman News channel, right?
Okay.
So I remember watching this back in the day. This is 12 years ago, has 1 million views. And this guy represents himself as a sovereign citizen, talks about the Jolly Roger. He's not the all capitalized fictitious name. And the female judge, I don't even know what to do with him. And he's able to just walk up and get out. And you can see here, she's like,
poor thing.
She's looking at the police officers like, what are we supposed to do here? And he's able to just get up and walk out.
Right.
And I remember back in the day watching that. It's like, oh, wow, that must be real.
Mm-hmm.
And it's posted by a news station in Bozeman, Montana, which really is their news station. And you're like, oh, my God, I had no idea of all this, again, secret legal gnosis of how you can get out of all this stuff. Well, it doesn't work. And I think for her, she probably thought, like, well, what do I do with this guy? And I'm not even saying there's not legalese and there's all these different words that mean different things in a courtroom versus outside of court. Of course, that's why you have to get past the bar and be able to be a lawyer in a courtroom. But it's the same methodology. It's the same schizophrenic mindset. It's the same idea that you are able to glean total truth from these symbolic analogies and connections and patterns. It doesn't work out long term.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not, like we said, someone asked, why is it dangerous? That's why it's dangerous, because if you're gonna put yourself in a position where you're gonna have to deal with the court and the justice system, and you have such a diluted view of it, you're gonna screw yourself. Like, is that what you want? That's fine. Go for it.
Yeah, go for it. All right, let's watch a little bit of our beloved. So here is this is him on Christos. Gerald Massey was a famous Mason esotericist at the beginning of the 20th century, who I have his books actually. He has basically like the skeleton keys to understand every world religion. This is the Christos argument. We'll get to it later. This one's his whole thing about Lucifer, but this is really the best distillation of George Maxwell's theories about Christianity as sun worship. So we'll just play like a few seconds or minutes, depending on how many claims come up, and then we'll just respond to his claims. Can everybody hear that? Can you hear that?
It's very
audio?
low. That's very low.
Okay, what about now? Let me change this. Okay, what about now?
I mean, the Son is our risen Savior. Of course the Son is your risen Savior. God's Son is our... You don't own the Son. Africa doesn't own the Son. So who owns the Son? Well, obviously God owns the Son. Well, then it's God's Son. And God's Son is the light of the world. Of course the Son's the light of the world. What the hell else lights the earth if it isn't the Son? So God's Son lights the world. He's the light of the world. He's our risen Savior. Of course it's your risen Savior. If it doesn't rise, you're dead in 6 weeks. So wait till it don't come up. You'll see it is your Savior.
Okay, stop that for a second. So the sun also kills you if you get too much of it without water. Then it's like it's like, what is this? Okay, is this?
Well, that's because Christ is Lucifer. Don't you understand?
Oh, also okay, gotcha. All right, now it makes sense. Okay.
You can always take the symbol and reinterpret it in a way that makes it fit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And of course, the sun was an important symbol for ancient people, and they noticed that, the plants grow. Same thing with rain. They have the rain dance of the Native Americans, for fertility. Yeah, they connected these ideas together. But this doesn't even diminish. So even if we grant the entirety of solar symbolism in Christianity, that hasn't debunked Christ yet, right? Notice that just for most people, they would say, oh, wow, okay, it's the sun, therefore Christ. Those are actually totally two separate domains of argumentation.
Yeah, also the nature of things, this is why it's so important to make these distinctions, is like the nature of the sun is a creature. So, now you've already committed to, if you're making these things identical, you're already committed to Christ being a creature. So, like, insofar as Christianity is concerned, which a lot of these things revolve around, you're already in some heretical position from the start.
Right. Yeah, good comment. Someone says, this is the guy who saw a pterodactyl fly by Griffith Park Observatory in L.A. Yes.
Oh.
George Maxwell also used to claim that he had witnessed UFOs personally and believed that aliens existed. And some people speculate whether, was he a paid psyop or something. I really don't think he was paid. I think he believed all the stuff he put forth. And his kind of claim to fame was that he had a conversation with George Lucas before doing Star Wars, and that Star Wars was playing off these astrological motifs that Luke, Lucius, Light, Skywalker, the sun, was defeating Darth Vader, the darkness, and that this had to do with this sort of dialectical astrotheological, and that he consulted with George Lucas, and he claims that Lucas then used his ideas without giving him credit in the Star Wars. And so that's like one of his claim to fames of anyone of significant importance, taking his ideas and, I guess, implementing them to some degree.
Right.
Sun, the Egyptians said the sun gives off energy, and energy is light. That's why you have the life of a battery. When the battery goes dead, no energy.
Yep.
So the Egyptians said the sun is pure energy.
Yep.
And it's giving us energy so that we might live. So God's Son is giving his life that you might live. Of course the sun's giving its life. It's giving its energy so that you can grow and the plants can grow. And once you begin to understand religion, where it comes from, the whole story of Jesus is nothing more than a metaphor. There was no Jesus, there was no Abraham, no Isaac, no Jacob, there was no Moses, no King Solomon. None of those people in the Bible ever lived.
Now,
I actually want to beat him up.
I want to address this claim because it's actually one of the easier ones to debunk. So if you just look into, and this is modern archaeology, so this is not the Orthodox position, these are secular people. Is there evidence that Moses existed? Well, it's a debated topic. So amongst secular academics, talking about like Cambridge history of religion departments, there are scholars, and you can find these articles, that claim Egyptian references potentially to Moses in the Exodus tradition. So it really all stems around, they're trying to find, is there any Egyptian reference to Moses? And there's many scholars that claim that in the particular period that there was evidence that this would have happened, that the Jews were under Egypt. Others claim, well, there's not direct, specific, laid out detail evidence, so it's speculated. So again, does Moses exist? Obviously, we believe he existed. But regarding secular archaeology, there's two sides. There's a whole side that claims that they have evidence. Another side claims it's not conclusive. King David we know existed. So you can look at the 9th century BC, the Tel Dan Stele, clear reference to a historical person by the name of King David. So King David, he says King David, no, we know that King David existed. Solomon, a little bit harder details on proving the existence of Solomon, but there again, it's a massively debated topic in archaeology. So Solomon not exist? No, it's actually two camps, just like Moses. There's people that provide evidence of his literal existence based on archaeology. Others claim not. Now, Jesus, as I opened with, Jesus is, and again, this is according to Helen Bond. She is a Bible scholar, And she has an article that you guys can find. I can share the article if you want. It's called The Archaeology of Memory, Solomon History and Biblical Representation. And she highlights that the historical fact of Jesus Christ existing, now Jesus of Nazareth, I should say, in secular terms, that is a historical fact. There are more references to Jesus of Nazareth and his crucifixion under Pontius Pilate than there are to Alexander the Great.
Wow.
So do we believe that Alexander the Great existed? Yes, I believe that Alexander the Great existed, but we have more historical evidence for Jesus of Nazareth. Now, that doesn't mean that he's Christ incarnate, because you could take a skeptical position saying he's a historical person but not God, and that is many of the academics in this field. It is a minority, a fringe minority opinion that still claim that Jesus Christ or Jesus of Nazareth was a mythological, non-historical figure. So to make that claim, it's just not consistent with modern scholarship.
Yeah, I want to add in. He just said the Christ gave his life, and the Son's giving its life. Well, no, to another swapperoonie for what we refer to as gave your life. It means die, right?
Right.
You know, died. The Son didn't die, right? It's still alive based on this guy's view. So this guy, how did he get popular again?
Because in the 90s and early 2000s, nobody was talking about this.
Unbelievable.
And so he had a student named Michael Tsarion, he's an Irish guy, and he then broke off from Jordan Maxwell. They had some disagreement, and he promotes many of the same things. Some of the symbolic interpretations are different, but he's another major astrotheologian. And I think Jordan Maxwell, 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s was kind of the most prominent out there figure about it. And so he had some people study under him, and they went off and did their own thing. So yeah, but the problem is with Jordan Maxwell is it says this. Yeah, I don't know Greek, I don't know Latin, I don't know Hebrew, I don't know Aramaic, I don't know any of these languages, I don't know German, I don't know French, I know English, and he does all of this stuff from modern English.
Yeah.
These are metaphors for something far deeper that the ancient writers were trying to tell you in a metaphor. There's a symbolic story. And if you don't get the symbolism, you will go for your whole life in trouble because you didn't know how to read the symbols. You don't know what's really going on behind the scenes. And that's what most people don't know anything about, how this world really, in fact, works. But once you figure out how the courts work.
So he's moving from not just not understanding the symbolism of religion. Astrotheology tells you how the world works. It tells you how everything is in operation. Again, a total exaggeration from what he can provide and whatever utility astrotheology actually has.
Yeah, also, he's doing the same thing that someone like Marty would do, where you have to say that everyone else doesn't understand it, and he's got the secret sauce, and, you have to basically go to him, and it's like, but based on what? Like, is there any history? Like, who's your, quote, church father? Like, who's the astrotheological church fathers that you're relying on or standing on the shoulders of? These people, right. It really kind of makes me mad where, like, clearly we had the ability when he was alive for someone to show up at one of his events and just completely obliterate him, but it maybe just didn't happen.
I don't think Jordan Maxwell ever did like a debate on any of this stuff.
Yeah.
I think his response probably, and I wouldn't know, and this is me putting words in his mouth, probably would be to the effect that, why would I debate someone who hasn't done all the research I have or know, they can't critique my arguments because they don't know, whatever I've read or whatever I've gone down. So again, his enlightenment is so elevated that there's just no one to actually be in true dialogue with him.
Sure.
Education works. Education is nothing more than a 12-step program. Let me give you an example.
This is hilarious.
In the ancient Egyptian religion, one of the many different religions in Egypt, the ancient Egyptian religion of Horus. Horus was the sun in its rising. He was a god the sun. And Horus was spelled H-O-R-U-S. And Horus walked across the sky in 12 steps. It was a 12-step program. That's why alcoholics have a 12-step program. You have a 12-step program. You go to first grade to the 12. It's a 12-step program.
What would you
So
say
for
if
the
I told you
12-step
I was
program,
mentally
they have finally
retarded?
taught you what to kiss and when, and how to get and how to get a job, and who to bow down to, and all that. So they taught you now, and now you can go out and get a job. It's the 12-step program, first to the 12th grade.
So,
I hate this guy.
So regarding the 12, so actually, Horus did not go across the sky in 12 steps. Egyptian mythology did talk about the solar god doing 12 steps across the sun and then 12 steps across the underworld. So the 24 hours of the day. That is true. Problem is, it's not Horus, it's the Egyptian god Ra. If you actually look into what book and some of these Egyptian, mythology texts, what it's actually talking about, it's the god Ra. It's not Horus. And its connection to the 12 grades is not true. Modern American education is, one, it's a sort of blending of the Prussian system. After the Enlightenment, Prussia, the German state Prussia, had the best military, some of the best standardized education. And our 12 grades didn't even come to existence until the 20th century. So you can actually go back and look all this stuff up from U.S. governmental text on public education. They decided the structure of 1 through 5, 6 through 8, and then 9 through 12 in high school. That was all. It had nothing to do with the god Horus going across the sky. And, Bill Wilson in Alcoholics Anonymous, he took 6 principles and then he doubled them. So it was initially like a 6-principle step, and then he doubled it to a 12-step program. He wrote all about, Alcoholics Anonymous. He never once mentioned that he was pulling this because time was calculated by the Egyptians based on the sun walking across the sky in 12 steps. But you see, if 12 always equals zodiac, wherever you see the number 12, and you have to connect it back to the zodiac.
Right.
Yeah, Ra and Horus, same thing, Jordan Maxwell. Yeah, they're not. They're totally different deities.
What is this? Where we got the bi-bull too? The 2 bulls theory? Bi-bull. Have you heard that one?
Oh, I see what you did there.
It's bad, dude. That's a real thing. Someone keeps showing up in my chat and on my comments, just ranting about this stuff. I'm like, lock them up.
What is that based on? Horus. Horus was our god, the sun god. In Egypt, he walked across the sky in 12 steps.
No, it was Ra.
Horus is the first step. Horus is the second step. Horus is the third step. When he got in the Horus of the 6th step, he was directly overhead. He was then called Horus, the Most High God, because you don't get any higher than noon. So it's called high noon, because he's the Most High. Why? Well, because after 1 o'clock, the sucker's going down. So, so he was the Most High at 12 noon. And so Horus walks across his 12 steps. So we say the same thing today. Same thing. We have 12 Horuses. But instead of H-O-R-U-S, we make it H-O-U-R-S. Becomes hours, changing the U and the R. Now it becomes 12 hours. No, it's 12 Horuses.
And so that one right there, that's another one of these English pseudo-etymologies. Horus and hours are not connected in any etymological, philological way. Someone go prove that to me right now. I challenge anyone. They are 2 separate words. They just merely have the same letters and maybe sound a little bit similar. There is no connection between Horus being the origin of the word hours in modern English. It's just an English sound-alike fallacy. Much of this is. We should just create a new fallacy. It's the sound-alike fallacy.
Yeah.
Horus represents light. The sun represents light. Light in Latin is Lucius.
That's true.
Lucius, when personified as a god, becomes Luke. And this is why you have Luke Skywalker. And he walks across the sky and meets his evil brother, Darth Vader, or in the Egyptian religion, Set. He was the god of darkness. The prince of darkness was Set. Why? Because it got dark at sunset.
And this reminds me of like Joseph Campbell and his hero's journey and like his archetype. He takes Jungian archetypes and then expands them on top of everything. And so can the war, the dialectical tension between light and dark, as it was articulated by ancient peoples and mythologies, be reflective in modern Star Wars when it, the 1980s when it came out? Yeah, it's symbolism, it's archetypes, it's patterns. Notice how nothing he said so far has undermined Christianity, right? The goal is to throw all these snowballs at you of what are perceived as historical facts, and it's supposed to build up to this incredulity of, well, oh my gosh, well, Christianity can't be true. What has he addressed anything about epistemology, metaphysics, theology, different paradigms, historicity? No, these people hate archaeology. Archaeology is like the death blow to the astrotheologians, because it actually, and I'm not a huge fan of archaeology in general, but it is historical artifacts that they have to build their theories on. So a lot of this stuff is just symbolic analogy. There is no historical there.
Yeah.
And just like Mithra, you can't even verify. So the idea that, Christians borrowed this from Mithra because Mithraism believed this. Okay, show me what Mithraism believed, because we don't have those texts. So I'd love to know how you know all the intricate theology of the Mithraic cults, because we don't have it.
Well, he's also creating a whole system that he himself has to say is also just purely symbolic. So he's like, all religion's just purely symbolic. And then he's arguing that there's a more accurate way to investigate or evaluate symbols themselves. But you have to craft a religion essentially, or at least a tradition around that, which he would then have to say is also just made up and just purely symbolic itself. So there's no foundation for any of it, which is why they get so mad when you don't let them rant about all of their, exquisite insights about sounds that sound like other things. You go, yeah, but what is this based on? Is that right? What is it based on?
Well, and that's how they appealed to any sort of veracity, is they shotgun blast you with all this. That's why they have to sit and rant.
Yeah.
Okay, just give me one statement. Let's just dive deep into one claim. Give me one claim. Okay, now let's go to the bottom of it and see if you're right or wrong. They don't want to do that.
Yeah.
They want to hit you with all this information to sort of confuse the perception, so that, oh wow, well that's interesting. And then by the end of the debate, oh well, he didn't address this and this. He must be running from it. No, dude, you threw out 30 different fallacious claims. Like, you can only address one at a time.
So the whole idea is that it's the whole world that we live in is based on Egypt, Mesopotamia, ancient Greece, ancient Rome. All of this stuff that we live in this world is based on ancient religions and cults and secret societies and Masonic orders, and the people of this world have no idea in the world what's going on. Christians think that they've got a corner on the truth, and they don't realize they're just worshiping the sun. Let me give you an example. We got a couple of moments. Let me give you an example. I want to try and understand what I'm saying here. All of the religious concepts and ideas in Christianity and Judaism come from the northern hemisphere. We don't have anything in our Christianity or Judaism that comes from the Aztecs or the Mayas.
You know what? There's a really good reason for that. They lived in the northern hemisphere, you dumbass. How could they describe the stars from the Australian perspective? They lived in the Levant, dude. They don't have any, southern hemisphere description of this. That's how we know it's solar worship.
Right.
What?
Right. Theirs would be totally. Well, what's funny is that you would actually have conflicting astrotheologies at that point too, right?
Yeah. Exactly. So they would be viewing it from different perspectives, and the winter solstice looks very different in Australia than it does in North America on December 25th. Mm-hmm. So that must mean that if you're a Christian in Australia, this just doesn't work for your faith. It's
right.
That was one of the dumbest claims that I thought he made is, they don't have an appeal to the southern hemisphere. They didn't live in the southern hemisphere.
That's essentially like what else? Like that's like if you were to, instead of the stars, you did your theology from particular flowers that were in your region, and then you're like, the flowers didn't exist over there. It's like they didn't have, yeah, they didn't exist. How could they derive their theology from that particular flower if they don't grow over there? Like, yeah,
Right.
this guy needs to be locked up.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's just a total non sequitur that, oh, well, they describe the solar phenomenon and lunar cycles from the northern hemisphere. That's how we know it's a solar religion.
Yeah.
What? Even if they did, that doesn't make sense. They're in the northern hemisphere, guy.
Or the Aborigines of Australia. All of our concepts and ideas come from the northern hemisphere. Very good reason. Because the whole thing of religion and Judaism and Christianity is astrology. It's based on the stars. That's what God is. Ask any kid where God is. He's out there. That's right, in the stars. That's what the Christianity and Judaism is based on, the stars. And so
because they're in the northern hemisphere, and any astrological reference made at any point in the Bible depicts that they were in the northern hemisphere means it's all astrotheology.
It's all, yeah, it's all
It
astrotheology.
doesn't make any sense, and that's where you almost just have to do the logical thing where you just grant them their argument. Okay, they're in the northern hemisphere and they describe the stars, and that still doesn't undermine any historical claim. You haven't even got to history yet. It's just all symbolism.
on the first day of summer, the very first day of summer, the sun is as high in the northern hemisphere as it's going to go. It's not going any further north than the first day of summer.
Yep.
Each day after the first day of summer, it begins to move 1 degree southward every day. It's so slight you'll never notice it. But 90 degrees later, or 90 days later, which is 3 months later, it's halfway down. So when he was high in the northern hemisphere, he started summer, and summer begins in the constellation of Leo. He was the Lion King, like Disney's Lion King. The Lion King.
Of course, duh. Why didn't I think of that?
What you didn't know is that Mufasa is actually Set, and Simba is actually Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to do with the northern hemisphere, because when you see the sun drop during the autumn equinox, you know, that means the Lion King.
Sure.
Are you convinced?
Yeah.
It's the sun in the constellation of Leo that begins summer, the Lion King, the lion of the tribe of Judah. It's Leo, the constellation of Leo in summer.
Someone just wrote, it's like Jonathan Peugeot smoked. Yeah, I feel like Jonathan Peugeot had a completely different trajectory, and he learned all the stuff he learned, but he went into like all sorts of crazy drugs, and he was just on the side of the street. Like, this is like, this guy, oh my gosh. It's like, it's so frustrating because like, it's so lazy, and it just shows how people get away with just the lazy application of these things. And it's rampant still. Like, this is like Owen Benjamin level crap. Like, you just string things together and you get a bunch of people going, whoa, that's crazy. I can't believe those words sound the same. And you're like, you shouldn't vote.
Yeah. I don't know if you should have kids.
Yeah,
He did.
exactly.
He was never married. He never had children. But the whole claim here that the lion from the tribe of Judah is the zodiac sign of Leo. Again, this is, symbols can represent different things in different contexts. Anyone who looks up any reference book, any religious encyclopedia, the lion reference comes from a verse talking where Jacob says, Judah is a lion's cub. So not exactly a direct solar reference. It's saying it's a baby lion, because at that point, Israel is just now beginning. If you look into what Jews say about the lion, they say it's a symbol of power, authority, strength, and royalty, because the Jews are the unique chosen people. They have a royal lineage, the priesthood, and all this stuff from Abraham. At no point is that a solar reference. And I looked into, because I was interested, like, are there traditions in history that try to connect the 12 tribes of Israel with the zodiac? And the only thing I could find is beginning in the medieval period with the Kabbalists. So Jewish Kabbalah, and that's where he even referenced, oh, you got to know the occult meaning. You got to know the esoteric truth. Well, it's interesting then how everything he's saying combines with the history of Kabbalah and occultism, which itself is its own hermeneutic, because the Kabbalists irritated some of the rabbis because they would take their magical, mystical world, transplant that onto the Old Testament, and take new meaning from it. Well, some of the rabbis didn't like that. They're like, these people are nuts. So Kabbalah, occultism, esotericism, it's a hermeneutic that's being laid onto the text to exegete meaning. Where did you get your hermeneutic? Did the Kabbalists, was that revealed by Yahweh to them, or did they construct that through the synthesis of Babylonian magic and ancient tradition, mystery schools? So again, it's just a symbol. One meaning royal victory has nothing to do with solar symbolism or the zodiac, and there's no reference of a connecting of the 12 tribes to the zodiac until the medieval period with the rise of Kabbalists. So take that for what you will.
Yeah, take that.
The sun is hot, so he's the Lion King.
Oh,
Leo, the constellation.
hot and sexy.
Now, 90 degrees later, 90 days later, he is falling. So
He's
now-
lying. Wait, why isn't he lying? Why isn't he a lying
Lion
king?
lying.
Yeah, why? Why not?
And that's why if you ever see an image of a lion laying down, it's the symbol of the accuser.
Right.
It's the ultimate liar, because
Gotcha.
the lion lies.
Mm-hmm.
It's very
We could
simple.
we can start a whole other channel with this, dude.
Yeah, we should. Yeah. Yeah. Goondick Astrotheology channel.
Yeah.
Because he was really hot. Now he's falling. So he's not that hot anymore. So now we call it fall.
Oh, he's
because
cooling
he's
off.
falling.
I'm sure fall has nothing to do with autumn and the falling of the leaves. and
What?
all that, you know, we call it fall because the sun cools down.
It's like he doesn't even care.
What is the symbol for fall if it isn't Scorpio, the backbiter?
Ooh.
And this is why in the old ancient world, when a scorpion bites you, they have two stingers, one on top of the other, and when they hit you, it looks like two lips. And then so the ancient people said, you just got the kiss of death. He just kissed you off. Because you just got bit by a scorpion, and that's the kiss of death. That's why the mafia gives you a kiss of death. That's where it comes from.
And I didn't look in that claim, but that could be true. I don't know. But again, how does that debunk Christianity?
It's
That
just
a scorpion, when it bites you, it looks like lips, called the kiss of death, and the Sicilian mafia use that symbol for their own purposes. Okay. I'm not seeing how Christianity's debunked yet.
yeah.
See, again, the goal is just to throw all this shit at you so
That's
that
all
you're
it
like,
is.
oh, wow, oh my gosh, you're right.
I want to cut to the audience. That's what I want. I want to see the audience. I want to see what they physically look like.
You're just gonna make fun of the wine bombs with
Yeah,
bombs.
they're all kind of. It's like someone was saying that this is like the Candace level stuff. It's just a different like. It's like the same approach, but you're not looking at the stars or anything. But like the mindset of it is very similar. It shows up in different places that have nothing to do with astrotheology. Right. We're just kind of like chasing like different things, like chasing symbols, chasing meaning, chasing numbers, chasing the number 33. Like you could just lose yourself in this stuff and never find a way out, honestly.
I think most people don't find their way out.
So Scorpio is the backbiter. He's the
They
one that
sting.
goes behind your back and rats on you, and he's the backbiter and causes you to die. And that's what Judas was, the backbiter, Scorpio, because Scorpio begins fall. So Jesus, who was the son of God, the God's son, the light of the world, he was the Lion King in summer, but now he is falling. The sun goes all the way down south until it hits what is called the winter solstice. And that's on December 22nd, the sun hits the lowest point on the sky in the south on December 22nd. It's called the winter solstice, the beginning of winter. And for 3 days, the United States Navy will show and explain it to you that the sun comes up for 3 days, 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, on the same degree. It doesn't go any further south, and it doesn't come back north. But on the same degree that it was on December 22nd, the sun rises the next 2 days, 23rd and 24th, on the same degree.
So we know what this claim is. We can skip through it, but just to respond to it, I want to respond to it here, just a few. Let's just grant his argument, which isn't the case. The gospel does not say the specific date of Christ's birth. This is tradition passed down from the people who knew him and speculated on when it would have been. So, as I told you, Hippolytus already speculated the exact date of December 25th in the 3rd century. Okay, so Hippolytus, so that was there. But let's just grant him. Let's just say that Christians saw the Romans of the Sol Invictus cult worshiping the sun on December 25th for the exact purposes he just said. It dies for 3 days and then it rises on the 25th. And it's representative of the life of the world, the light of the world. Okay. How does Christians replacing the sun god with the creator of the sun demonstrate that Christians secretly worship a solar cult? That doesn't logically follow. So again, this is a genetic fallacy. The idea that if Christians, and I'm not even granting, I'm saying for logical purpose, let's grant the whole thing. If they did say, oh, all those solar cultists are worshiping on December 25th, let's steal that day and make that the birth of Christ. Let's say they did that. That doesn't diminish the historicity. That doesn't diminish the theology. And if the claim is, yeah, we're putting the creator of the sun's birth date on the day in which you worship the sun, how does that dismantle or diminish Christianity?
In fact, it would point more to how we baptize certain things, like and consecrate things. Where, you know, when what was it? Saint Boniface trolled the pagans with their tree, and we took it.
Yeah.
Like that's actually more points to the tradition, the ongoing tradition of Christianity, anyway. So, like, you're right. There's nothing there that shows like, oh well, there goes Christianity. It's like, yeah, right. you can grant that. You could probably debunk it, but you could also just grant it, like you said, and just be like, so now what, buddy?
Grant it. Say, okay, that's what we did. We just adopted the solar tradition. But our God actually is the light of the world, and we believe he is the creator of the sun. We don't believe he is the physical sun. And that's the difference. And that's the thing here, too, is that they don't care what the theological position is, right? Notice they never debate philosophy or theology or how those symbols are interpreted within that context.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Because it's on December 25th, that means they worship the actual physical sun like the cult of Sol Invictus. No. Like, just like you said, the tradition of orthodoxy is that it goes in and sanctifies, purifies culture. And again, getting back to logos spermatikos, could the idea that those who were worshiping the attributes of the sun as the light of the world and the source of life, could they have adopted the solar solstice as the day of their annual veneration? Yeah. Okay. And could that also associate with the actual light of the world entering into the world? Yeah. Okay. Grant it. Okay. Symbolically already dealt with in orthodoxy. Doesn't change anything for us.
Right.
Because the cosmos reflects Christ. The cosmos reflects God. The cosmos is ordered in a way. So if we believe in metaphysics and mathematics and the laws of logic, do we believe that the astrological realm couldn't reflect God as well?
Sure.
Yeah, of course. It's all based on the metaphysics.
Yeah. Also, that you notice something with these guys is like, just like New Agers, when you really press them on things, everything ends up reducing to things that are just empirically verified or things you could measure or see. They never account for the invisible either. You noticed in their trends, they never account for the invisible, which is why it's not a whole program. It's like a half. It's like astrotheology is at best a half of a system. So it just falls apart, basically.
And it's not really a system. Like I said, it doesn't even have a falsification criteria. So again, if we had an astrotheologian, ask them, what evidence would need to be produced to show you that Christ is not the sun? Mm-hmm. Let's just take that claim, that he's not the actual physical solar entity orb in the sky. I bet they'd be hard-pressed to tell you what would disprove that for them, because there is no falsification criteria. There's no way to disprove their argument.
Yeah.
And that's why they get so upset if you try to. Again, we are doing it in a very straightforward way, but for them, there's really nothing that could debunk it because they're so convinced of it.
Yeah.
So it's not even a system has to be able to have criteria to what includes in the system, what's not included in the system. They don't even have that.
Right.
So the ancient people said that the Son was alive. He was the Lion of the tribe of Judah, Leo. He got the kiss of death from Scorpio, and now he is 3 days, he's not moving at all. So therefore he's in his tomb for 3 days. Then on the 25th of December, the sun moves 1 degree northward.
Oh my gosh.
And you can calculate that, as the Navy does. You can calculate. It's very slight, but if you got the right instrument, you can see the sun move 1 degree northward. Therefore,
please go into classic, the weather outside is fright. Like, please talk about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, please.
So now we celebrate God's Son being born again. He's born again. When? On December 25th. So we celebrate Christmas, or Christ's Mass.
How many reindeer? How many reindeer? 8.
Oh gosh. So anyways, you guys get this claim here. The next one is then now he's getting into that Christians don't know the difference between Lucifer and Satan. So if anybody who's ever referred to Satan as Lucifer, you're ignorant. You're
right.
Just a dumbass. Don't you know that Lucifer is actually Jesus Christ, and Satan is the devil, which is just the word evil with a D in front of it.
Judges and law and Satan. And as I said, Dr. Malachi Martin said that Lucifer is not the devil. Well, you know who Lucifer really is. The Bible tells you specifically who Lucifer is, and he's not the devil. Satan is the devil. And again, devil is simply the word evil with a D in front of it, like God.
Wow. Okay. Devil is simply the word D, or evil with.
In one language.
Yeah. And what language is that from?
Yeah, exactly. When was that?
Yeah, because diabolos is the Greek word that the English word comes from, and it means the accuser, or led to mean the accuser, but originally mean balo in Greek is to throw. Dia is to separate. So diabolos originally meant to separate things. That's why we say the devil always wants to isolate. Christ wants communion. He wants things to come together. So this was the Greek idea, diabolos. Or what about the Hebrew? Is they must, shaitan must totally correspond with, it doesn't.
Whoops.
Dang. So where does the word devil come from? It's actually Old English. And it didn't even look like the way it looks today. It's a modern rendition of the Old English word. So again, this idea doesn't stand up to scrutiny. It only exists in English. That you can take, devil, evil personified, not real, only mythological. You can only do that in English.
Mm-hmm.
It's
another pseudo etymology. It's not real.
God is the root word for God is the same one for good. So you take O out of good and it becomes God. God is good, the devil is evil, right?
Oh.
But
wow, so simple, so straightforward.
Wow.
Who is Lucifer? Well, the fact of the matter is the Bible says Lucifer is Jesus. Jesus is Lucifer. That's in the scriptures. That's in the book of Revelation. Go get the New Testament of the Bible, and in the book of Revelation 22:16.
Get the traditions out of your mind, and when you just read the scriptures. Just read the scriptures.
I am the bright morning star. I'm the offspring of David, and I am the
full verse is, I am the root and descendant of David, the bright morning star. So what that, and in the Latin Vulgate, even he messes it up. He says the Latin Vulgate says it explicitly. The Latin Vulgate does not call Jesus Lucifer, does not equate the two. And it uses Lucifer referring to the morning star, which he's going to touch on is a reference to Venus, the planet Venus, which is the first light in the sky you can see at night when the sun's setting. So what is being said there in Revelation is that Christ is he's the morning star. He's the thing that you navigate your life on. He is the light, that you then navigate reality through. He is the seed and descendant of David, right? that is not talking about the planet Venus or associating him with Lucifer, which in Christianity, Lucifer became an ordinary Latin word for Satan, the devil. It became a conventional proper name for Satan. So yes, you can separate them through etymology or philology back to the ancient period, and Lucifer did represent the morning star. But we call Lucifer because he was the most beautiful of the angels. He was the bright morning star in a way. So there's conflation between Lucifer as a ancient concept regarding the morning star and the planet Venus, Lucifer regarding the fallen angel and the third of the angelic hierarchy, and then a reference in Revelation 22:16 where Christ refers to himself as the true root of David and the bright morning star. Though, notice that you can't just smash all that together and say it all means the same thing.
Yes, you can.
Bright morning star. So this is Jesus saying, I am the bright morning star.
And
I thought he was the sun. Like, what didn't we?
I thought he was the
just-
Lion King.
Yeah, just for 10 minutes ago, he said he was the sun and we worship the sun, and now he's saying we worship the planet Venus. We worship the morning star. Well, which one is it?
that's verified in the Catholic Encyclopedia online.
That's
What do you
exactly
say?
right.
It says Lucifer is the planet Venus, and then it refers to also Peter in the book of Revelation. Says
That's
it
right.
finally applies to Jesus Christ himself.
Yeah, and the Catholic Encyclopedia, because there are two places. The first one, as I said, is in Revelation, and the other one is in 2 Peter in the New Testament, where Peter says it talks about the bright morning star when he is coming, the Messiah, the bright morning star. Well, look up the word bright morning star in the Bible dictionaries, Bible encyclopedias. Go to any good reference or work or any good, what am I trying to say, seminary and
seminar.
library. Go to any good seminary library and get the encyclopedias and dictionaries of Christian religion and look up the word Lucifer, and it will tell you Lucifer is Jesus. He is the bright morning star, and the very word Lucifer means bright morning star.
Bright morning.
But
Right,
it's
morning star.
anything different in different contexts. So, again, this idea that you look up an encyclopedia at a good Catholic seminary, he's eventually going to conclude by talking about how it's the Jesuits that he gets his information from, and that he goes to these Jesuit Catholic priests and they just confirm everything he's saying, and they agree it's all solar worship. And it's like, okay, well, that's not a great source, clerical source. The Jesuits are notorious for being progressives and sort of, I don't know, pseudo-Christians in many ways. But this whole thing, again, Revelation 22:16, we have references to Lucifer and Isaiah, but notice, or Numbers 24:17, a star shall come out of Jacob. Well, notice that if we believe in a creator, we can appropriate created things as analogous symbols without worshiping the thing that's symbolized.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so semiotics is broken down into three parts. There's the interpreter, there's the sign, and then there's the thing that the sign symbolizes. Right, those are three different phenomenons. The stop sign is symbolizing the stopping of a vehicle. The stop sign is separate from the thing it intends, the meaning. Right, so there's three parts to every symbol: the interpreter, the sign, and then that which is signified.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that is signified can change in different contexts. And
Right.
for us, using the metaphor of the bright morning star to refer to Christ's second coming does not mean that we think that he is Lucifer, the fallen angel of the angelic hierarchy. Those are two separate phenomenons. It's just the same word that's used.
They just get away with it, dude. It's just, that's all. They just got away with it.
Yeah, and Isaiah 14 does use Lucifer when he talks about the fallen, that he witnesses the fall of Satan. He uses the term Lucifer. And Lucifer, back in the ancient period, also referred to like a Babylonian king. So it was used in different contexts, right? So that referring to the Babylonian king, they weren't talking about the planet Venus, and they weren't talking about the Hebraic understanding of the fallen angel. So again, the same word can mean different things in different contexts. It seems to totally go over their head.
Star means Venus. When you observe the orbit of Venus over a number of years, it describes a pentagram in the sky.
That's right, exactly.
And they've been told in other faiths that
gosh.
Lucifer is Jesus'
So Christians are actually practicing witchcraft.
Yeah.
brother. But then again, if Jesus is the Son, we're not talking about a man. We're talking about the literal sun.
Yeah, S-U-N.
S-U-N. And Lucifer is actually the planet Venus, and Set is
the prince of darkness in Egypt. The prince.
So now Jesus is both the sun and Venus.
Yeah,
My
why not?
God, he's going to be the whole planetary body here soon.
Yeah.
Of darkness, and of course.
Hey, hold on a second. Imagine a skit where you go to, what are those things called? What are those things called? Where you go and you see the stars and they tell you about the planets, like a dome. You pay to go. Observatory. An observatory that's just bought out by one of these crazy people, and you go there and you think you're learning it just about the heavens, and you just get all this stuff instead. It'd be hilarious.
Pretty much. I mean, planetarium.
It's a planetarium.
It's crazy how, again, it's just this constant connecting of symbol to symbol to symbol. There is no systematic thinking. This is why they would really benefit from just studying a little bit of philosophy, because it would force them to justify, right? You say, okay, Christ is the literal son. Where do you get that? Well, the words. No. Justify it. Give me something foundational. Give me something historical. Give me the church fathers, the tradition. Give me a secret letter that the Byzantine emperor and the Bishop of Rome were secretly just saying, oh, all these idiots don't realize we're worshiping. Doesn't exist. And it's just so retarded.
To Christianity, that we're talking about the war between light and darkness, between the sun and.
Well, here's the thing: Orthodoxy doesn't believe there's a war between the two. Our paradigm isn't dialectical, so we don't even believe that Satan is warring against Christ. The famous where they're arm wrestling, the Protestant thing where Jesus is arm wrestling. Jesus is up here. Satan he's a created entity. His war is against us.
Yeah, it's there's a dualistic view, good and evil. It's on a seesaw, and you're balancing it out. It's no.
And it demonstrates their Gnostic hermeneutic, right? This is astrotheology really is interpreted through a Gnostic lens. And then they privilege this dialectical tension on everything, when Orthodoxy, that's not how we understand evil. That we don't even believe Satan can war against Christ. It's not even close. So in our worldview, this framework isn't even possible.
Between the darkness at night. So it's, the darkness has 12 hours to rule the world, and the sun has 12 hours to rule the world. So it's an equal battle, back and forth, back and forth. And this is why we're told that Jesus will return. And he will return. When he left the world in the hands of the Prince of Darkness. Well, of course, when the sun goes down, the Prince of Darkness.
No, he didn't. He left the world in the hands of the Holy Spirit. It's called Pentecost. Where in the Bible does it say Jesus hands the world over to Satan?
Right.
They're actually bound for 1,000 years, which is a metaphor, not maybe necessarily 1,000 years, but
it says I'm echoing right now for some reason. It wasn't happening. Yeah, it didn't happen the whole stream, but now it's sudden.
I'm not hearing an echo. Let me let me make a adjustment here. It seems like the powers, the aerial spirits are.
Yeah, the spirits are
sound system.
getting us. That's better.
Darkness in Egypt was called Set. That's why it gets dark at sunset. So,
oh my God.
The Prince of Darkness rules the world for 12 hours until God's Son, the light of the world, comes back and saves us.
Yeah, but when you say God's Son, you're actually saying that
S-U-N.
S-U-N, but you're saying Jesus himself never existed,
Yeah,
correct?
I'm saying Jesus never existed, but the entire story of Jesus in the New Testament, the entire story from Matthew to Revelation, is a profoundly important work on the world scene. I am saying the Bible and the New Testament.
Whoa. Did Matthew exist? Like, why is he so arbitrary on these people? Like, couldn't Matthew be another star adjacent to the sun somewhere? Like, it's like I'm amazed. This is what, 90s? Is this the 90s? Yeah. Okay. All right.
This is very influential, man. So when you're talking with Marty, this is where he's pulling all this stuff from.
Yeah, you hear that, Marty? You wouldn't stand like 5 minutes with our questions against you, you little heretic.
No, he wouldn't be able to prove. He would move to another connection, to another connection, to another connection, because they can't dig down.
Yeah.
And this idea that the whole New Testament is solar symbolism. Does he not know that the epistles are written to historic churches? Does he not know that, Romans is written to the Roman church, or Thessalonians is to the church in Thessaloniki? Like, if you read them, they're very pragmatic. He's telling people what to do. Our services should be like this. Hey, don't do this. We need brotherly love. Hey, stop getting drunk after fellowship. We don't do that. So the idea that even the epistles are somehow describing a solar religion, it's like, what? I don't think you've read them.
Is an incredibly important story. It's got all the most important knowledge and wisdom and understanding woven into the story of the New Testament, but you have to know how to read it to see it. I mean, that's why Jesus...
So then it gets to the epistemological point that we made earlier. How do you know that your reading is true? How do you get to this amazing astrological lens of interpretation, Jordan? You can't. Nobody. There is no authority. Like, what do you do? Oh, you buy Jordan Maxwell's books. Like, I bought his CD, DVD stuff that went through all this. You go give him money. That's what you do. You want to learn how to go give Jordan Max. Again, he's passed now. Someone was asking if he was alive. No, he's dead. But that's what you do. That's how you get this special hermeneutical framework.
Yeah. Or you sign up for Gnostic Academy. The modern version of it is exactly that. You're going to get the secret truth. Yeah.
Well, at least they're consistent with their Gnosticism, though, because this is Gnosticism.
Mm-hmm.
This is. I mean, the way that they frame everything is so dialectical. It's just totally different than the Orthodox paradigm. It doesn't comport in any way. Now, here's him talking about Christos. So he'll say that Christos means oil, or anointed, which is true. Therefore, the Jews anointed with oil. It's tied to oil. Okay. Which means that Crisco is related to Christ, Crisco cooking oil. And that means Christ doesn't exist.
Thank you. Right. Yeah. Just because of that. Right. That part still blows my mind. Like, why you would need to try to like take that commitment that Christ never exists. It's all just made up. But all the rest of it's not made up, like the historicity of everyone surrounding it. How about the apostles? Are they just seasons? They didn't exist? Like, I don't get.
Yeah, there's zodiacs, dude.
It's totally arbitrary to determine for them which part of the Bible is actual literal and which part is just like a parable, or which part is pure metaphor or analogy. What system? Again, I think the killer here is, like, aside from making fun of it, is always going to be epistemology. How do you know anything from this view? They would collapse a simple epistemic question. They would collapse.
Yeah. Technogore says toward the end of George's life, he was going on interviews and would literally barely speak and just tell people to buy his books. If you want to know the answer to the universe, yeah, pretty much. And, it's astounding that he didn't realize making his jump from, Christos to Christ not existing. It makes very little sense. And I remember taking his idea. I don't know if it was Michael Cesare or somebody mapped out the 12 apostles onto which zodiacs they were. And I wrote this down and I took it to my early Christianity, New Testament scholar during my master's degree. Showed it to him. I said, "Hey, have you ever come across this? I was looking at the 12 apostles relate to the 12 zodiacs." And he looked at it and said, "Where did you get this?" And well, some scholars online, again, giving them a higher title than they deserve, calling them scholars. And he's like, yeah, I've never seen this. I've never heard anybody connect it. And it seems arbitrary that you've put certain apostles into certain zodiacs. What? And I was like, well, yeah, it is kind of arbitrary, isn't it? Because how would you know that the apostle Thomas is Virgo, or whatever it is? How would you make that delineate? He's like, yeah, I've never heard this stuff. I think whoever you're listening to is, mistaken. He was very cordial. It's like, oh. And so every time I ever presented these ideas to academics, I always was humiliated. This was a huge turning point for me where, maybe we were talking about why this is deleterious to people and why it's dangerous. Is if you're not challenged on it, you're going to keep going down further and further. If you just talk with normal people, nobody has dove down these rabbit holes enough to respond to these things. And so until you talk with like highly accredited people regarding the specialty of their field, and then they make you feel humiliated, like you're an absolute idiot. Like, what did you just do?
Yeah.
That's what shook me out. I'm like, oh my God.
Well, it's like a lot of basic stuff. Like if you don't know offhand some etymological origin of a word, and if you move away from that or even cite it, it sometimes debunks these people. But even if you cite it and move to a word in a different language and show how it's inconsistent, they kind of fall apart in real time. But most people, like you said, they don't have that knowledge, and they're not interested enough to even do it. They'll just go like this. Whoa, that's really wild.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool.
I didn't know that. I didn't know Christos meant oil. And you're telling
Crisco?
me Crisco cooking oil tied with Christ?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I guess he didn't exist.
Right, yeah, there we go. Whoa. Christianity debunked.
So here's his Christos oil thing.
Christ means and where it comes from. Christ comes from Christos. Christos in Greek means oil. That's why you have Pillsbury cooking oil called Crisco. Crisco is Christo. Christo is Christ. Why? Well, because Jesus was the anointed. When you always become anointed with oil. The kings in Israel were always anointed with.
Dude, I had no idea Jesus was a bunch of seed oils. That's crazy. Mind blown.
Holy oil, so they became anointed. Christ is merely oil, and oil was used to anoint kings and princes, and all of the ancient world. All the ancient world always anointed their kings and rulers and princes with oil. They poured it in the head of the kings and princes. Jesus is a metaphor, a symbolic metaphor. You can interchange I's and J's. So you can interchange iosis with jeosis, or J-E-S-U-S, Jesus. Jesus, according to the reference works for thousands of years, is the Son. This is why.
No, not according to reference works for thousands of years. Like what reference work? Please, Jordan, tell me what reference work you read that is thousands of years old that says that. Like, I think he just made that up. I think he read maybe a reference work from 1912 or something. He's like, thousands of years. They weren't even writing reference works for the first thousand, in my Britannica Encyclopedia from the year 300, it says.
Yeah. Also, some other little tidbit. The acronym for Crisco started from because of crystallized cottonseed. They just conjoined crystallization process and cottonseed oil and put them together. That's all they did.
No, dude. No, bro. You don't know. Jesus didn't.
You don't know?
No, you see, it's like you eat the seed oils and then it makes your skin burn when you're in front of the sun. And it lets you know that, hey, this is the life of the world, man. Like, you're just worshiping the sun, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know seed
We
oils
worship
cause you sunburn.
Christ or Jesus on Sunday.
Oh. Bum, bum, bum.
It said his name was Set. So God's Son walked across the sky in 12 steps, and he left the world. And when he left the world in the hands of the Prince of Darkness. But he said he would come again. And he does every morning about 5:40, 5:45, 5:30.
Wow. Wow. And that has thousands of likes, probably close to 100,000 views on YouTube.
You know what it is also? Is there like deeper thing here is if you take this approach, you don't really have any like obligation or deontology to your system. Like there's nothing there. Like you just get to go, whoa, that's crazy. And then it's like, well, that means that means none of the quote organized institutions of religion, in this case Christianity, is true, and there's nothing binding me to any sort of way of life, and you just get to run along and do this stuff. Like to me that seems to be like the core when you really press these people, because they want to be their own authority. And this is just like a symptom of that, I think. It's very rebellious and Jewy, if you ask me.
Yeah. You know, one of their claims too is that Solomon is sol, Latin for sun, om, the sacred sound in Hinduism, you know, om, and then on, the Egyptian solar god. And that is who Solomon is. It's like, well, hold on there. You're telling me that Solomon, who is in Shlomo in Hebrew, you're telling me that the Jews created a mythological figure and then borrowed from all these different traditions and different chronologies, right? This is one of their problems, is that there's not a clear historical chronology for their connections. So at points, and I'm blanking on a specific example, but they'll put the origins of something that Christianities do to an event that actually occurred after Christianity. So the chronology is wrong on how something came about. But they don't have an ontology, and so they don't really focus on where things truly come from. It's just this overprivileging of similarity and analogy.
Yeah.
And yeah, so this whole thing, again, for us, St. Maximus the Confessor talks about the cosmic mystery of Jesus Christ. Everything can participate in the revelation of Christ. So do I think, again, hammering the one that everyone says is December 25th and the solar symbolism, to me, if you're a Christian, it actually is like a very beautiful cosmic reality for regarding our understanding of the incarnation of God and what he truly represents. It doesn't diminish it. They think that these things are going to totally undermine your faith.
Yeah.
And you'll never be able to come back from it. You know, once your mind's expanded, you can never put it back to its previous.
Oh yeah, once you know, bro. Yeah. Well, I actually wanted to know if, like, do they have any point when they say he has to say that all religions are based basically on some model of astrotheology, but if we just swap Christianity with like anything else, does it actually work out that way, or only in part does it work out that way?
In part. I mean, again, it depends on which one. They tend to go after Christianity with the solar stuff. That's the most popular. I've seen, you know, they have sections on Islam, the origins of Islam, and why the color green, and the color green has to, you know, why the color green in the desert? Well, there's a lot of competing theories. One has to do with a mysterious group of soldiers who came and helped the Mohammedans defeat the Persians in the early years of Islam, and that they used the color green, and green represented life, because in the desert there's not a whole lot of green, so green was a privileged color. Others, the astrotheologians, no, it has to do with the planet Venus. You see, Venus is associated with the color green, and this is why Islam is actually a lunar goddess-oriented tradition, and they worship the planet Venus and the moon. And then, you know, of course, Judaism is Saturnian, so it worships the planet Saturn, you know, Kronos, the god of time. And it's like, yeah, the symbolisms, you can connect. The Star of David, six-pointed, the sixth planet is Saturn, and Saturn has a hexagram on the top that NASA's discovered. It's like, okay, but you're just connecting associations. We're not actually getting to the proof of something being this or that.
Well, it seems like because we're spiritual beings, the intuition and the impulse to look at nature or the sky or anything else, even look at other human beings or animals, and try to, from our natural pursuit to know God, it seems that The inclination is the thing that we should really be discussing in all of this. Is like what inclines human beings to pursue a religious view of nature, or even try to incorrectly make nature divine or something like this. Is like even that impulse needs to be evaluated from an ultimate worldview that's holistic. So like that's another win for orthodoxy, where we could make sense of even the human impulse to want to even do such things, make God the stars, or make God the nature itself. It's wrong, it's incorrect, but the impulse to know God is there, and the impulse to see, or the intuition at least, to see nature reflective of a creator, even generally speaking, seems to be like something that's more generally shown throughout time, throughout history, throughout civilizations. But the question always is whether you're a Gnostic or an astrotheologian or anything else. The question ends up being, through what paradigm are you examining even that impulse? And from my view, if it's not orthodoxy, you're not going to actually get it. Yeah.
And you get to orthodoxy. I mean, me knowing a little bit about your journey is that it was through a philosophical inquiry into presuppositions. Like, how do I know something to be true? What makes most coherent sense? You know, back in the day, we talked about coherency versus correspondent theories of truth. It's like you're asking such deeper fundamental questions to figure out, okay, which one should I entertain first? And when you go down that rabbit hole, orthodoxy has all these bridges that you can cross into it, where astrotheology, it's so ahistorical. So, for example, the association between Christ and Apollo. How many people know that Apollo initially was not a solar deity, and that in the Greek pantheon, they had a solar deity called Helios? And they were two separate things. It wasn't until later that they sort of got amalgamated into the same thing, where Apollo takes on his solar symbolism. So from that perspective, you could ask an astrotheologian is, okay, well, what did Apollo represent before he got combined with Helios? They have probably no idea that that was the historical occurrence, or that he didn't always represent the sun. So it goes to the point that symbols change. And it'd be nice if someone was to steel man, if you're an astrotheologian, you're going to be a good faith and genuine. At least every time you come across a symbol to present your explanation, you would steel man the interpretation of the people that believe it to be something else. Mm-hmm. But they don't even do that. I venture to say they probably don't even know what a steel manning of the opposite position would look like, because they're so focused on these similarities. And this emphasis on similarities over and over again is a huge, just like the English being the etymology source, it's a huge fault for astrotheology, because it diminishes and flattens all these major distinctions. For example, Bacchus and Christ is the same thing. Okay, well, Bacchus is a god of wine, orgiastic activity, inebriation. At the Bacchanalian celebration, you know, people got totally intoxicated and had sex with anybody they wanted in the town square. That sounds like a totally different religion than Christianity. But, oh no, Bacchus represented the sun, so it's the same thing. What?
Yeah, that doesn't make... Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense. But you'd have to understand paradigms and presuppositions for that to make any sense.
Well, again, it brings into question like, why you have to drive it to a paradigm level, because you're actually assuming some sort of metaphysics to investigate this stuff. You're assuming at some level an ought claim, like, you know, should people pursue this? Should people understand this? Like, obviously, we're not granting that anything they're saying is true at the whole level, but why? Like, why even do any of this? Like, is there anything wrong with any sets of behaviors? And that's kind of what really kind of calls, I think, most people to orthodoxy, is like the orthodoxy actually solidifies all of these facets of reality: the invisible, the visible, the metaphoric, the symbolic, and the actual, and it all unifies it all. And but then it also gives you practice and gives you a way to participate, which this kind of stuff doesn't. There's nothing there. Like, what do? You show up to a quote sermon from a guy in a yurt so he can tell you about math, so he can sell you more books on what he thinks is true. There's nothing sacramental. There's nothing, there's not even something sacrificial. I don't even think they have sacrifice in this system. That's coherent anyway. Like, I don't, what's the sacrifice? Just like
Their abortion.
is that what it is? Or is it just trying to survive through one of their talks? Like, maybe that's what it is.
You have to sacrifice your sanity to.
Yeah.
I know I told you I got a hard out here in a
Sure.
bit. So do you want to address some of the super chats on our channels?
Sure, yeah, I can get to some over here. Let me see if most of them are just making fun of people.
And if you're going to be live, because I have to hop off,
Yeah.
you could address yours after
Sure.
I stream it.
Oh,
I don't know.
yeah. No, you could do that. Yeah, go ahead.
Chase Crosp throws in 10, says, this stream is quite coincidental. My daughter and I was just observing the moon/Venus Saturday night from her telescope. Wednesday and Thursday, there's supposed to be a lunar eclipse across the U.S. Oh, no. Oh, no. Chase, you're not worshiping Lucifer, are you? Jeez, I can't believe you do that to your child, man. I'm kidding. Thank you very much for the support. Major thank you to Anthony Ferrante for the very generous super chat. Be doing a sponsored stream on his regarding trauma here soon. Chair Throwing Italian throws in $6.70. By the light of the sun, JB's shoulders are now visible without a magnifying glass.
Honestly, look at the two of us. Like, he's not actually that. All right, never mind. All right, fine.
We got to get some mogging going on.
Fine. I was gonna say, like, I don't know what that coat was doing, but I was like, wait, we're equals now. We're okay. We're not equals.
I
Fine.
can't believe you would diminish me like that.
You're not a man. Look at those hairy arms.
Yeah, you don't even shave, dude.
Exactly.
Josiah Elleron throws in 10, says, so excited for the stream. God bless you both. Well, thank you very much, brother. I appreciate that. And KLW throws in a generous 20, says, towards a future stream where you two can be in person sharing a bottle of whiskey. That would be fun.
That'd be TOS. That would be a TOS stream for sure. Right?
You know, for drinking whiskey? I don't
know. No, just the things we would say.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, us at a bar or something. I mean, you guys want to see that, but that's a scandal. That's a scandal.
Yeah, I have a professional responsibility and reputation to maintain online, so I don't know if I can degrade myself by a night of drinking with Jim Bob. You guys wouldn't be the same.
Yeah.
No, but generally, Jim Bob and I, we always have a fun time, and dude, when we get together, it's just laughs nonstop. So
it is.
You've outed me recently. People keep saying that they've heard I'm funnier than I am online, and
fact.
It feels like a bit of a diminishment to my personality online, and it's
well, we understand. You have a doctor name now, and you have jackets and things like, so it's like you want to be taken seriously. You want some decorum. You want some dignity. Maybe I don't know. Maybe you should just start on. I don't want to say OnlyFans, but like another account where people get like, the unfiltered Patrick,
I definitely can't promote that to my parish.
That's true. Yeah.
One of the reasons why I try not to use profanity and curse is because I know that there's like 12, 13, 14-year-old kids that watch my stream.
Oh, who said anything about cursing? We're just talking about your sense of humor.
No, I know. I meant when we get together, though.
Oh, yeah.
Where we go with things.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely hilarious.
You're right. It doesn't actually belong on a stream. You're right, actually.
No, I was just saying I have to keep that one away from the parish life.
Yeah.
But no, Jim Bob and I, it's funny. I always mention this when you get on. Jim Bob was my first live stream back in like the spring of 2020. If you guys are true Jim Bob fans, it was back when he was doing his car streams. And I don't even know if Jim Bob had created a YouTube channel yet.
Barely.
And he was doing his Instagram stuff, and I thought he was hilarious. And somehow or another, we formed a friendship on Instagram. And then you were the first guest to do a live stream, of which the first 40 minutes was no audio. So
yeah, I remember that. That was funny.
To Thee We Sing throws in 5 COTEL Crew memberships. Thank you very much, brother. I appreciate that. Kievian Rus throws in 5, says, can it even be shown that Mithraism was prior to Christianity? Why don't we just claim that Mithraism came as a reaction by pagans to Christianity? Well, I don't know the exact answer to that, but it's possible. At least the Roman form of Mithraism. Now, Mithraism prior to Christianity, yes, because Mithra is actually a god in the Vedic text, the Rig Veda.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Vedas over in Hinduism, and those are like Old Testament times. So does Mithra as a concept of a god pre-exist Christianity? It does. But a lot of the stuff that people point to is the Roman Mithra, which is a little bit different. Like I have a book here, The Mysteries of Mithras. This is a very expensive academic text. Just flexing on you pories.
Yeah.
But, no, that book is actually very hard to come by, and it is sort of the latest 5-year scholarship on everything we know about the mystery traditions of Mithras, which we don't know a ton. So do we know that he was incorporated out of the Vedic tradition by the Indo-Europeans and then created his own devotional cults where they did psychedelics? Yes, we do know that. But again, a totally different paradigm to Christianity. And we do know that the Romans were pushing Mithraism amongst the soldiers to combat Christianity. So I know that's what the Kievian Rus is getting at. Justin Henley throws in 5, says, that's like the numerology movie 23. Yeah, with that on and off weirdo Jim Carrey. Yeah, it is, because these astrotheologians see the symbols everywhere, just like I did. I remember when I was into it, everything you looked at is symbolic. You got to code it and interpretate it. Kievian Rus throws in another 5, says, missionaries converted pagan peoples by showing them Christ through their own religion, culture, type. Exactly. So if anything, we could say that the cult of Sol Invictus being taken over by Christianity is apropos to Jim Bob's point of Christianity, historically speaking, is that they would take pagan archetype symbols and then repackage them or reinterpret them for them through the light of Christ, through logos epistemology. That is the tradition of orthodoxy. Justin Henley says, I'm broke, just like how a woman's water breaks.
Same thing, literally.
Yeah, I had that whole, because we were running out of time, so we're not even going to get into it. But if anybody has ever, and maybe it's worth another stream in the future, is maritime admiralty law. How many people in the chat fell for the sovereignty stuff? Anybody dive deep in the sovereign citizen free man? I remember I bought a binder of a guy. I should have guessed. He ended up going to jail. But it was like this thick on how to represent yourself in court as a sovereign citizen.
I was sold a little bit on it to this extent. I bought a dictionary that was too expensive called the Black's Dictionary, whatever it's called.
Oh, yeah.
So I got that. So that was a sucker. That's where I took the L. I never practiced it, but I was like, yo, no, I'll just get that giant, thick dictionary book of words.
You got to know what the words mean.
That's it.
No Face Killa throws in 5, says, Israel has a right to exist because is real.
Israel.
Yeah, that's an argument. I've heard schizos speak. Oh, God. Yeah, again, that only exists in English. Steelborn throws in a generous 25. Thank you very much. Says, this is your half. Love both of you guys. God bless. Well, thank you very much. And KLW throws in 10, says, buy bull. Okay. Eats beef. Exactly. No Face Killer throws in 2, says, a Maxwell lecture is a true kiss of death. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, is once you kind of see through, it's basically a magic trick. Once you see how the card trick works, you can never not see how it works. And it's still interesting, but you're like, okay, that's the trick. Once you see the astrotheology trick, it's like, oh, okay.
I just don't understand how he is so non-charismatic, though. That's what blows me away about that. Like, he's actually boring. He's not funny. He's not sharp-witted. He's like droning on. I'm like, at least be like Russell Brand, where it's like you're dancing, right? You're basically like dancing around. He didn't even have that.
Well, that's what a solar tard would say.
That's exactly what a solar tard would say.
Josiah throws in 10, says the H in DPH stands for Hilton because if you take the C out of COTEL, you get hotel. Therefore, Hilton. I mean, it's.
Ooh.
Gosh, I didn't know you guys were gonna find out my long lost sister Paris.
Ooh.
This whole ortho thing is a grift. I'm actually loaded. Thank you so much, Josiah. Neo throws in 2, says in stage Protestantism. Yeah. Well, it's funny. The Protestants are terrified of the mushroom theory of Jesus and this astrotheology stuff, just because they can't really deal with it. So they run from it, and these people then think that Christianity runs from their arguments. It's like, no, you ask, Pastor Joe in Mobile, Alabama, and he has no idea what the hell you're talking about, and he thinks you're.
I think I'm gonna take the character Pastor Mike and have him go on a astrotheology bender. I think.
You should.
Yeah.
You should do like I don't know how many TikTok invasions or TikTok groups are talking about astrotheology.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does Pastor Mike have an accent?
Yeah, he does. He kind of sounds like George Bush, basically.
That's perfect. Well, Emmanuel throws in 50 Mexican pesos. Thank you so much, brother. He says, in the beginning was the seed oil, and the seed was oil, and
right.
The seed was with oil. Yeah. Exactly. And that's why I cook with Crisco. No Face Killa throws in 5, says, you see, Crisco is used to make pie crust. Apple pie is the best pie. Adam and Eve ate the apple. Therefore, seed oil enlightens. Wake up, plebs.
Duh.
Wake up, people. Don't you see what's going on? You guys are kept in the darkness by these man-made religions. And it's just getting absolutely ignorant at this point. And I can't deal with you people. Have you ever done a debate with Marty?
No, he's challenged me, and he can't even like say a prompt that's coherent. He's like, he wrote me an email. He was like, among like 100 other emails, he wrote, "Come on, let's debate it. Astrology is biblical or something." And I was like, eh. And then he was like, "Defend your faith." I was like, those are 2 different statements.
Yeah.
Like astrotheology or astrology in the Bible, that's too broad, like we just went over. There's going to be something that's true descriptively when it comes to astrotheology in the Bible. I wouldn't say astrology. It was probably we're far less liberal about saying that that's in the Bible, but there's probably something about not causal, like stars and seasons cause us to do things, like or something like that. But yeah, like he wants to debate, but he keeps shifting what the prompt is going to be. And you know what it's going to be like. It's just going to be speed rattling, machine gunning, all of these associations. And then optically, if he drowns you in associations, you're like, see, you can't do anything. It's like, no, you just pooped on the sidewalk, dude. Like, and my broom's not big enough. That's all.
Right. Yeah. And I guess the verse, and I'm blanking on the exact verse where Paul basically points that the cosmos and nature can be a symbol pointing towards Christ, but it can't have power over your destiny, your fate, or basically astrology.
Yeah.
But the prompt that he set forth for you, yeah, it's a dubious prompt because there's not a clear-cut position for you. You can say if is astrology as understood regarding, system of destiny, is that in the Bible? You can refute that. But if it's just astrology, and then it's just symbols,
kind of.
Dude, how can you debate that? That's going to be everywhere.
Yeah. That's why it's a trick to debate people like that. They don't want to get into the rigidity of their claims. They just want to say, look at all these things. You're saying you don't see indications of the Trinity in nature, or something like this. You're like, no, that's not what we're saying. But
right.
Yeah.
And wrap up real quick. Kevin Rustos in another 5 says, I think Catholics took logos spermaticos too far, with resulted in all worship being true worship instead of type/archetype like ortho missionaries. Kievan Roos, yeah, you could say, I mean, I would argue that the Catholic Church is under a perennialist approach, which is very modernist. So perennialism gets going with what's called the traditionalist school with like Rene Guénon, Helena Blavatsky, all these Rudolf Steiner, and they posit that all religions are leading to the same mountaintop. That gets going in the 19th century, and it's very popular through the 20th century. I would say the Catholic Church has adopted that.
Yeah.
And the problem with it is it doesn't have an objective epistemology. So for orthodoxy, we don't do that. We do have logos pragmaticos, but it also demands that we claim the God of Islam is not the God of the Bible or our Trinity. Hinduism is not the same thing as Christianity.
Do you think that is that downstream? I know like V1 or especially V2, utilizing some of these perennial approaches, but is that a symptom of natural theology, like a classical, almost like a classical foundationalist approach where you actually, all you have is like trying to reason your way through looking at the world and you're trusting your own, sort of like philosophical accounts of it, but it's not from that view. Like even this dude I'm about to review later, he's like a young upcoming Catholic kid who had a little spat with Jay recently, the Jesus and Whatnot character. He actually tried to make an argument against someone for the existence of God, but he didn't ultimately appeal to a revelatory system, and he just went to basically self-evident truths. But I don't really see a difference in the epistemic route between that and where you get these astrotheology views, which is like you're kind of taking the same approach where you think things are just kind of self-evident in the way in which you tie symbols together and meaning together, and you just go, it's obviously Crisco, the cooking oil, obviously. Like, well, it's not obvious.
No, and as I said, with this overemphasis on similarities and analogies, so if they were going to compare Christ and Mithras, for example, what they do is they take an image, two images, and then they compare the symbolism.
Mm-hmm.
But they never compare theology. And if you just compare the symbols, then theoretically you could say Buddhism and Christianity are identical because they both teach compassion, monasticism, meditation, and detachment. Well, they're totally different theological systems. They're totally different religions. They make totally exclusive claims based on each other. Mm-hmm. Just because the attributes of compassion and detachment and silence, that doesn't make Buddhism and Christianity the same thing. But that is the logical process they're doing with all these symbols. Is you just find the connections and then it equates to the same thing. That's a parts whole fallacy.
Sure.
You can't do that. And KLW throws in 5, says, Mama's little boy loves shortening bread. Why bread is used in communion.
Oh.
Is this a joke for your channel?
No, I think he's pointing to, is he making it? I think it's another product reference to like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like Crisco, like Doughboy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, got it. KLW, shout out to you, man. God bless you. Thanks for the support. And Twaho throws in 20, says, peace, brothers. Well, thank you very much, man. God bless you. And let me just wrap up real quick on Streamlabs. I got to go pick my wife up from work. Go ahead.
I said
K-Ram throws in 5 over on Streamlabs and says, my 2 favorite streamers collabing. Well, you got good taste, K-Ram. What can we say? What a good day. God bless. And Simon Kim throws in 5, says, DPH, would you be open to doing a sponsor stream on exposing Seventh-day Adventism? Yeah, sure. I can't say I know tons about it right now, but I'll dive into it. And Simon K throws in another 10. Thank you very much, brother. He says, maybe off topic, but would you be open to a sponsor? Okay, same thing. So thank you, Simon Kim. Yeah, I'd be open to exposing Seventh-day Adventism. I can't say it's something I've ever really dove into deeply, but so be it. And nothing on Dono chat. And okay, last one for the goal. We got 2 more. Blink 444 says for the goal. Well, thank you very much, my man. Guys, go should I raid you, even though everybody's watching the same thing?
I'm gonna end this stream and start a new one, but you can
okay.
raid. I'm gonna still wrap it up over here.
Okay.
Whatever.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for me, guys. I got to get out of here. Jim Bob, thank you so much, man, for taking the time. I know that, I'm not memorable. You already forgot our meeting for today. I had to remind you. We already established this last week. We established it the week before. You forgot that one on Wednesday. So I'm glad you could fit me into your busy schedule. I really appreciate that.
Well, you should be, because I usually charge for this time. So
that's why the pay piggies reimbursed you for the time.
Well, do you have $300,000?
No, I don't.
No, you don't.
No, I don't.
Okay.
But hey, God bless you, brother. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate everything you do, man. God bless you and the family. And yeah, we'll have to do it again in the future. It's been a long time since we've done a stream together.
Yeah, totally. Well,
obviously, you never invite me on your program, so
I don't invite anybody on my program.
Olive Branch.
I never invite anybody.
I know.
I mean, anybody on my stream makes the stream like objectively worse. Anybody.
Well, that's one narcissistic way to put it.
Well, that's one way. Well, it's not like it's me who said it. It was the stars. So.
All right. Well, God bless you, man.
God bless you, man.
God bless everyone out there. And go to church. I will see you all probably Wednesday. So, as always, until then.
See you later, man. All right, y'all. I actually set up another stream so you guys can go over there. Actually, I'll raid you. It's the other stream. Okay? It's over there. The stream that was set for today, I'm going to actually just do it. So, I'll send you guys over there real quick. And then I will start that stream in about 7 minutes. It's about that Catholic dude, young guy. He gets a lot of attention, though. I mean, he's got last night at a simple one-on-one debate that wasn't even moderated. He had like 12,000 people. He had 12,000 people in his chat. That's crazy. That's cuckoo. That's wild times. All right, let's do this. You guys go over there, and I'll see you there in a second. All right? All right. Good job. Really, good job making it to the other place. Bye.